Good morning from Binary University in Malaysia, and heartiest welcome equality in the digital space, barriers and opportunities in Asia. In conjunction with the International Women's Day theme, Digital Innovation and Technology for Gender Equality, the Center for Women Leadership, CWL, at Binary University is organizing this international conference, which is entitled A Gender Equality in the Digital Space, Barriers, Opportunities in Asia. CWL was established in 2007 at Binary University with the vision to promote the development and advancement of women. Our today's program is divided into a keynote speech followed by 3 panel discussion and a special address. Let me just introduce our program itinerary for today for all of us who are here present. The keynote address will be on Achieve Inclusive Growth by Dr. Jasmine Begum, Regional Director, Legal and Government Affairs, Microsoft APAC. Then our 3 panel discussions today will be, first of all, on barriers to women's participation in the digital space by Dr. V. Madhurima, Professor, Department of Physics, School of Basic and Applied Sciences, Central University of Tamil Nadu, together with Ms. Padma Sikiyar, COO, Sketek and Ultimate Company, Bangalore, India. And this session will be moderated by Professor Dr. Sulochana Nair, the Vice Chancellor of Binary University, Malaysia. Our second panel discussion, titled Reducing Gender Disparities and Improving Access to Technologies. This will be presented by Dr. Taisir Hamid, Senior Lecturer, Binary International University in Uzbekistan, and Ms. Bhuvaneshwari at Coach Bhuvana, CEO, QF4 Tech Asia, Sadian Bahad, Malaysia. And this session will be moderated by Yang Mulia, Tengku Nur Istina, the founder of Chick Malaysia podcast. Followed by our next panel discussion will be on increasing participation of women and girls in STEM education by Professor Ram Ramaswamy, Visiting Professor, Department of Chemistry, Indian Institute of Technology, India, and together with Engineer Dr. Hafza Jamshid, National Textile University, Pakistan. This session will be moderated by Pon Sri Datin Professor, Dr. Rohini Devi, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Binary University. And then finally, the special address for today is on digital humanities and its implications for gender equality. And this is to be presented by Prof. Merlin Simiraj, IIT Madras, India. And the session to be moderated by Dr. Renuka Rajaratnam, Dean, Research and International Partnership, for introduce and invite our CWL Center, Barbhagia Ponsir, Dr. Rohini Devi.
Thank you, Dr. Ashif. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I wish all of you ladies and gentlemen, can you hear me? All right. I want to wish you all a very warm welcome to the Center of Women Leadership's virtual conference. The Center for Women Leadership is dedicated to promote the development and advancement of women leaders, as well as to contribute towards the protection of women's rights and needs. Now, its aim is to contribute to the social and economic progression of women by addressing their intellectual and practical needs with the emphasis of producing more women leaders and entrepreneurs. Now, today, in conjunction with the International Women's Day, CWL brings you leaders and entrepreneurs to share their experience and the area of expertise on the topic gender equality in digital space, barrier opportunities in Asia. This is in line with this year's theme entitled Digital Innovation and Technology for Gender Equality. Without further ado, I am pleased to introduce our keynote speaker for today, Dr. Jasmine Begum, the Regional Director of Legal, Corporate and Government Affairs for ASEAN and New Markets at Microsoft. Born in Penang but raised in Kuala Lumpur, Dr. Jasmine completed a double degree in law at the International Islamic University in KL. She then pursued a postgraduate studies in both law and communication in the UK and earned her PhD in business and human rights. Dr. Jasmine, who strongly believes in education, is a social equalizer, recently put Malaysia on the world map. She is the first Malaysian to be appointed to the Internet Governance Forum Multi-Stakeholder Advisory Group in 2022. Dr. Jasmine has 27 years of work experience covering legal, policy and regulatory engagement and communications. Dr. Jasmine oversees corporate affairs, government relations, and policy engagement for Microsoft businesses in Southeast Asia and the emerging markets. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a warm welcome to Dr. Jasmine Begum.
Thank you so much, Puan Sri Professor Prof. Sulu Chana and Prof. Dr. Asif. Thank you for the opportunity to share some thoughts this morning. I've gone through multiple rounds of this month, especially just around the region and globally talking about this issue. And I've learned so much from talking to leaders across the globe, as well as the region. Allow me to share my screen so that I can take us through a bit of the presentation I've prepared for today. I take it I have 20 minutes. Would that be correct?
Yes, Dr. Jasmine.
Okay, great. I'm going to start. Am I coming across clearly?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, great. Thank you. The case for equity, whether it is digital or not, and I do want to sort of bridge both in the digital front and the non-digital front, because it all converges. And why do we need this, right? Let me start by saying this is not a new issue. It is an issue for ages. We have seen this being discussed since the first human rights discussion, women's rights discussion emerged. So, I looked up, I went into ChatGPT and raised this question: what do inclusive growth mean to dinosaurs? And this is what it came back with. It actually talks about female dinosaurs breaking through fossil ceiling. It is an issue for all times. And I've been reflecting. I have done gender mainstreaming work for almost 20 over years. And while we progress, we seem to be setting back, something pulls us back. And I've been reflecting on this, and I wanted to set the tone and bring us back to the opportunity we have today. it is an increasingly changing world. It is a complex environment. We are faced with different kind of needs. And what we are seeing is the emerging power of Asia. And what does that mean? 56% of the global village is Asia. What is the women participation in this is where I think we want to think about, we want to focus, and what is the opportunity it presents. More countries are legislating for diversity and inclusion, but the point is when we legislate, it is about removing barriers. And my proposition and what I would like to put forward as an argument is that it is not about removing barriers. It is about not having a barrier to begin with. Why do we start with a back foot? Why don't we start with an enabling environment to ensure that women are not faced with barrier? And let me further put forward another argument as well. We are faced with more women, not only across ages, but younger women coming into the workforce. So what does barrier look like for them? And what are the enablers that we need to look at? And to the question is coming back to why equity and why equity is going to be critical in removing these barriers. And the reality is it is not an equal playing ground. And it is different points. And while we are providing equality, it doesn't give the equal opportunity. We are trying to bridge, but equality doesn't bring you to the outcome that you want to get. So pushing for equity and providing not one size fit all solution, but a solution that is tailored for different environment is going to be critical. And making sure there's justice in it, in making sure that we are enabling them, providing them tools that would be able to allow them to actually reach their goals. But more importantly, in providing justice, we're actually removing barriers. So starting from ground where we lead with removing barriers, we lead with providing them, not putting up barriers is where we should start. And that is why the argument and the case for inclusivity should start with equity. What's the economic case? The economic case for inclusivity is 28 trillion. By not including them, by not including women, by not thinking about gender mainstreaming as a critical national agenda, we are losing out a total of 28 trillion. And that's a wallet share. Can you imagine a woman who is not able to contribute constructively and productively to the economy? And think about women who are in the rural area who do not have connectivity, who are further impaired. And then you throw into the mix not only marginalized women, but marginalized women who are also women who are disabled. The permutation just makes the case for equity even stronger. So when we talk about gender equity, when we talk about inclusivity, there are different lenses that we need to look at. And going back to the fact that we all don't start at the same starting point. And why is that? Why is this so hard to implement? Societally, it has been normalized. We have talked about every breakthrough that we do have. We celebrate because it seems like a giant leap, but we also do not take into consideration the setbacks that we have faced. And I want to emphasize that COVID-19 was not gender neutral. It has set us back, and it has disproportionately affected women. And therefore, when we think about this, about not just justice and right, but there is economic prosperity that is tied to this. And it is critical that we think about this not as something that we do once a year, or once in a decade we celebrate a year. The fact that womenomics has to be mainstreamed, and that would by itself drive the removal and enable the environment, has to be central discussion. We continue to talk about, in many countries, we see the women agenda, youth agenda, and the women and youth are bundled together with family and prosperity, with family agenda, and then we also throw in driving disability as a welfare issue. As long as we drive a women agenda as bundled together as a welfare issue, we will not have progress. We need to drive the women agenda, we need to drive the youth agenda, and we need to drive the disabled agenda as an economic agenda and not a case for charity. I'm not saying that charity should not be considered, but if you consider it as an economic agenda, it will reduce the dependency on charity. And that is an argument that I think as women, as policymakers, collectively as leaders who are advocating for gender mainstreaming issues, we need to lead with an economic agenda. Looking at women in technology, addressing the topic today, we talk about the US tech workforce, and we now also see the tech workforce. 5% of ASEAN women is what we are seeing, 5%. And then when we transition to labor markets being disrupted, what we see is because of technology, for every job created for a man, only 4 men get displaced. But for every job created for women, 20 jobs get displaced. So the point is that it has to be thought through not only from a perspective of how do we remove barriers, but also when we think about talent, as we think about talent development, universities considering new emerging opportunity, new courses, hybrids of courses that are coming out, courses and opportunities that are being born out of technology, hyper development of technology, hyper transformative agenda of the technology era. We need to think, as much as jobs are being created, we need to ensure it is a competitive market and it is a level playing field. I don't think it will ever be a level playing field in the next 90, 100 years, but every step counts and we can make that difference. And we need to accept that there will be digital divide. There is a digital divide. Whether a woman can afford a mobile phone, we do know the numbers are mobile device ownership between men and women, between rural and urban areas continue to be one of the greatest challenges. We see that women are the most unbanked or underbanked, and those are reality. In order for them to be able to contribute effectively, it is critical that we look at digital diversity. Why is this important? And digital diversity is not something just nice to have. It is pertinent to drive transformation. It is pertinent to grow economic areas. It is important to empower families. It is important for the growth of the nation. Making sure that there is awareness, starting with skilling, starting with the fundamentals of being able to have access. Access is where we start. If you do not have connectivity, and with governments, countries around Asia having such bold contribution of digital economy. For example, in Indonesia, 60% of GDP will be contributing to their GDP comes from digital economy. And how much of that pie belongs to women entrepreneurs, right? So similarly, 40% of GDP, digital economy for Vietnam, 40% for Singapore, 25% Malaysia. So if all of these countries are on a hyper-growth agenda using digital economy, we do not have a respectable number of women contributing to digital economy. And we need to look at this as a big part of the pie, given that women do a lot of these homegrown businesses. The MSMEs are largely owned by women. How are we empowering them? How are we giving them enabling tools? How do we ensure that they are able to grow their market? Being purposeful then becomes very critical to ensure that the digital dividend that comes out of this is inclusive. And it cannot be a dialogue that we have once a year. It has to be early, it has to be now, it has to be often, and it cannot be something that's stagnant. Technology doesn't wait. neither does the economy. And in order to be competitive, we need every citizen, every person to contribute to the competitiveness. And why is this important? And you know, we always say, I am Indian by origin, and you know, in our homes, we are told that when a woman is educated, it is always about educating a community and not just a home. And we, of course, they tell us, you know, we raise good children, but it is not just about raising good children. It is about raising leaders. It is about raising nations, and therefore creating the societal dividend is not something that we can treat as a lip service. Digital transformation, driving transformation is not an enterprise agenda. It is about making a difference, and it is about creating societal dividends. And then come in between all of this, we are now in the AI revolution, facing an AI revolution. Here's a number that I would like to put out. In 2022, AI economy, the economics of AI, artificial intelligence, and advanced analytics is $3.9 trillion globally. And the biggest challenge is that we have is the bias of the data bias. And it is further made worse by the fact that it is a tech bro AI. So a lot of the data that's used are not normalized for women. It is the mindset. So I always say this, behind every great AI, there's a great human or not. Because artificial intelligence, robots do not fall out of sky. There is someone sitting there coding and someone who's creating these technologies. And therefore, the danger of tech bro AI, you know, is another lens that now we need to think about and consider. With that, I do want to think about, it's not about why do we need to have a ceiling glass? You know, I started with the fossil ceiling for the dinosaurs, but why do we even think about having ceiling glasses, glass ceilings, and us removing that barrier? If we start with not having those glass ceilings, what do we need today to ensure that we don't start on a back foot? What can we do for our children and the next generation? And let me start going back to where I started my presentation today. This is not a new phenomena. This is not something new. We have been talking about this. And let me share this video before I go back and close my presentation. Please tell me if you can hear the video. Can you hear?
No, we couldn't hear.
We can't hear
no.
the video. We can see the video, Dr. Jasmine.
Okay, I'm going to try to share the video. Sorry, I use Teams, and therefore I'm going to struggle a bit with this. Let me try again. I'm going to try again. Yes, stop sharing and. I'm going to try again. Let's see if it works. If it doesn't, it's fine. I will try again in another way. So.
Dr. Jasmine, there will be one thing that you have to do, share with sound at the bottom when you are sharing the screen. That will give you you can solve that.
Okay, stop
At the
sharing.
bottom, yeah. When you start sharing, right?
Yes.
Before you start sharing,
Oh,
there will be
share
one
sound.
button. Yes,
Yes,
share
that's
with sound.
share
That's
sound.
it. Yeah,
Yes,
it's quite straightforward.
yes, I'm so sorry. I'm so familiar with Teams. And
Yeah, totally understand. Your trainers every day we are using it, so
okay, fantastic. I'm going to try this again. Yeah. Can you?
yes.
Yes, your volume is fine, Dr. Jasmine.
A witch! A witch is coming! A witch!
Stay with your brother. Is the pharmacist in here? I'm looking for 10 liters of Legroin.
You won't get those stains out of that dress. Better buy a new one.
It's not for my dress. It's for my carriage.
Are you trying to poison your horses?
Do you have 10 liters or not?
I want to pause there to take questions if I'm okay for time and to see if there's anything I could address and why it was important for us to watch that video. Nobody talks about Bertha Benz, the person who took it for test drive, the first test drive. And I felt it was important that in discussing today's topic and creating that digital frontier and making sure that we are providing that equity to women, everybody has to play a role. but we need to also ensure we provide an environment that bridges the divide. Do we have time, or should are we open to taking questions, Prof?
I think you can take a couple of questions. If there are any questions from the floor, because this is an opportunity for the panel, for the participants. Any questions from the floor, please?
I would like to ask the questions. Dr.
Yes,
Jasmine, thank
sure,
you so
Buna.
much for the questions. Could we even get some insight? Some of the areas that Microsoft is working on, the women digital diversity that we can hoop in. So just wanted to have some idea about it.
Sure. So Microsoft as an organization, the biggest contribution area is ensuring we do skilling for women, digital skilling. We do this across the world. We do it in Asia. We work with Asia Foundation to bring in special skilling like cybersecurity. We have Cyber Siksha in India. We run especially specialized skilling program to enable women to take part in emerging areas. So the one thing that is available today that is low-hanging fruit that we should all see is the skilling program. Microsoft in Malaysia committed to skill up 1 million Malaysians from a Malaysia perspective. In Indonesia, we committed to skill up as well. And we are working with various organizations, including Kominfo and Kartu Prakerja. So globally, we have skilling program that we committed to, and that would be the lowest hanging fruit. And then we have Code Without Barriers. To women who want to go into coding and development, and Code Without Barriers is something that we also work with. So there are different areas, but largely it focuses on ensuring that we are skilling up women.
Okay, are there any other questions that we can take? Yes?
Hi, hi, Prof. Sulo. Me, Christina. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Hi, Dr. Begum. Nice to meet you. Thank you for that really great presentation. I think it has given us a lot of insight. My questions actually focus on how you balance between kind of elevating women from poverty through kind of like digital empowerment itself. I know it's like women are more likely to actually be faced by poverty than men, and kind of equipping them with digital skills is one way to empower and lift them from that. Like you mentioned SMEs and everything else and helping that out. But I'm just wondering, how do you balance it both? Because it really seems like, you know, there's massive challenges ahead of you. So how do you balance between the two? Thank you.
Thank you, Tengku. I think we cannot wait for a perfect environment, right? There is no perfect. It is not where we wait for everything to come into place. And therefore, it is, again, the way we approach it is, of course, what Microsoft does, what we go in to do around advocacy, but also systemically driving a policy change. Because with the policy change and a shift in the policy agenda, we are able to scale. For example, as a company, we decided to work with ASEAN Foundation to ensure that we are skilling up more women in cybersecurity. There are not enough cybersecurity people, there are not enough women, there are not enough talent, and then there are not enough women. So that is one approach. But then to address your point, how do we bring women out of that poverty, but at the same time also ensuring that we address some of those challenges that they have to face. They face the motherhood penalty. They face all of the different challenges because they are full-time workers, full-time entrepreneurs, full-time caretakers, full-time mothers, right? They have 25 different roles while having to make sure that they also put food on the table. So I think the opportunity here is to ensure that we drive both a cultural shift as well as a policy shift. Where, you know, today when we talk about women policy, it is not about an economic discussion. It's about giving charity. It's about, we need to move from that giving to empowering and making sure that there is education, there is ability for them to be skilled up. Let me share with you an example. We did a program in Jali in Kelantan where we brought skilling for women entrepreneurs. And they were able to show, and you know, Klantanjali with poverty central to issue there, we were able to get them to triple or, you know, grow their profit in 3 months by giving them that skilling. So what we see is we need to move away from smart city to smart economic hubs. When you establish smart economic hubs around the country, you diffuse and you democratize the distribution of societal of digital dividend and ensure that they are reverse mentoring, they are skilling programs, we are ensuring that they are able to work from home, they are able to do their home business. So that's one way to do that. But the biggest challenge in doing that is that we need connectivity. So it is not a solution that we can solve for one, but we need to solve for all to ensure there is a drumbeat of march towards progress. I'm not giving you a solution, but these are some things that we are already doing.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
can I take one last question? Then we have to ask Dr. Jasmine to conclude.
I see a question here from Mr. Kumar Das. Will online education help skilled women in particular to access the opportunities that new technologies present? So we do offer, our experience is, and my experience, women are not attracted to technology per se. You know, if you are going to get, in the 2 seconds that I had to play the video, I had a mental trapeze. Again, oh my God, the video is not working. What am I going to do? Women have fear. You know, generally, women of, especially the older generation, have fear of what are they going to learn online. I think for the younger generation, the digital natives we can do. We need to create a skilling program that will have both that touch and feel and being able to educate them. And I don't think it's natural for older women. And I'm being very practical. It takes a lot. I'm 53 years old, and I know, at least in my generation, women get very afraid. And I work in technology, right? I breathe and work in technology, and every day I think about issues every day, and yet there is that fear. So I don't think we can solve for a certain generation. We still need to have some kind of physical classroom, some kind of, you know, hands-on entrepreneurial development and digital skilling. It cannot be digital skilling for the sake of digital skilling, because I don't think that will work with the older generation. Thank you. Oh, there's another question. Promotion into senior level, not great. Promotions are hard fought, and the biggest thing that works against women is motherhood penalty, meaning that, you know, a professional woman has to, not only a professional woman, but no one will, you know, in a case of two parents, when a child falls sick, it is automatically assumed the mother will take care of it. Or when an elderly person at home falls sick, it's also assumed that the woman will take care, right? So there is that motherhood penalty bias that continues. And women who are at a certain age and they're just starting family, that is another challenge. And I'm not talking about Microsoft. I think in Microsoft, we hire women who are pregnant. We don't do medical checkups. So I've been very fortunate, but generally we do see motherhood penalty working against women. I think things are improving. We are speaking up. We are asking for what is equal, but forget promotions. We just need to start with equal pay. That's where we want to start. Thank you, Prof. Sulochana. I think I've answered most questions, and you are running behind time.
I'll just let you just quickly conclude your presentation, Dr. Jasmine. I don't want to leave it hanging.
No, absolutely. I hope, you know, what I've shared today is that we are facing a daunting task. It cannot be a once-a-year conversation. I appeal to everyone who's here and not to think about it. I leave you with this. You don't have to be in a position of power to bring change. All of us can, you know, what matters is to create impact, and it has to be small waves. So I would appeal to everyone who's here that in whatever form that we can bring and advance that creating impact. Let's do it together, and hopefully that will create a bigger wave. And with that, I thank you, Prof, and Puan Sri as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Jasmine, for an amazing presentation and a very honest presentation on the challenges that we face. Thank you very much, Dr. Jasmine.
Thank you very much. All the best for today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, I will move on to the first panel session for today. And it is on, and we are going to talk about barriers. I'm just hoping that my panelists are here. If you're here, please. Dr. Madhurima, are you here?
Yes, I'm very much here.
And Madam Padma, are you here?
Yes, I am there. Yes.
Okay, so that both my panelists, I can start the session. So we are going to talk about barriers that women face in the digital space. And I have two speakers with me. The first speaker is Dr. Madhurima, who, because we're talking about women and scientists and etc., Dr. Madhurima is a professor in the Department of Physics, a School of Basic and Applied Sciences, the Central University of Tamil Nadu. And Dr. Madhurima obtained a PhD in physics, and her thesis title was Physiochemical Studies on Hydrogen Bonded Binary Mixtures of Polar Liquids. I'm glad you have binary in your thesis title. That's the name of our university. And you did your master's in physics in the Indian Institute of Technology. Dr. Madhurima has held numerous positions as a senior lecturer in the National Institute of Technology and Science in Chennai, senior lecturer, postdoc. She has done some postdoctoral work at the University of Hyderabad. She's been a research associate and a reader at Mizoram University, an associate professor and in the Department of Physics at Mizoram. And now she's an associate professor. She's a professor in the Department of Physics at School of Basic and Applied Sciences in the Central University of Tamil Nadu. Her work, why we've invited her and her work, she's done work on health and hygiene in rural women, as well as dispelling scientific myths among school children. And she's a life member of the Indian Association of Women's Studies and a life member of the Association of Bharatanatyam Artists of India. Very interesting, Dr. Madhurima. And I could very quickly introduce my second panelist before I pass the floor to the speakers. My second panelist is Padma, and she says she has had 38 years of experience working in Sketch and Element Company as COO, 28 years in Sonata Software, and 9 years in HAL Bangalore. At Sonata, she has 15 plus years in senior management role and a member of the Executive Council. She has deep experience in working for all aspects of ITS companies, delivery function, HR talent and organizational culture, learning and development, quality assurance, business process automation and dashboarding, 10 years experience as life member of Executive Committee, vision, strategy, execution and reviews at organizational level. She's held several leadership positions and she has also provided pre-sales support. And she has interacted with customers. So she is a practitioner in the area of science and technology. And now I'll just pass on and she's also a manager of the Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. So I've got two very impressive CVs with me. So let me start with Dr. Madhurima. I'll give you about 15 to 20 minutes to do your presentation. I've seen your slides, they're amazing. So can we have you start first, please, Dr. Madhurima, and then I'll follow with Fatma.
Thank you, Dr. Sulochana. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are very. Thank you.
And is the screen visible?
Yes, your screen is visible.
Thank you. Good morning, one and all, and it's a pleasure to be spending some time with you discussing an issue which is close to my heart. I'm working in a university where we started with 86% girls as students, and we continue to be a girls majority university. So I've been working with them, and many of the issues that I will be discussing have been hands-on working with my own students and of course working around the country in various capacities. So quickly getting down to the presentation, it's very difficult for me to follow up what Dr. Jasmine has spoken, because she, I think, covered the entire gamut of the issues and the possible solutions. So you will see me repeating. Women and digital space. How do we define a digital space? A digital space is the display screen that you see on any digital device. And we know that we use these digital spaces for communication, for handling information, for transacting bank transactions, self-improvement, and of course, entertainment, which means this becomes an ubiquitous part of our lives. And you cannot not have 50% of the population, world's population, participate in this entire exercise. Why is it important for women to be there in the digital spaces? Because to a large extent, especially during the COVID pandemic, we have realized that digital spaces have replaced social spaces. This is where this is where we have a sisterhood being established. This is where our friendship circles are being established. And this is where our professional networks are also being established. So we need to be in the digital space. Networking is a big part of career advancement, and many studies have shown that women fail to breach that glass ceiling because they lack the networking capacity, mostly because the family takes most of their time. Many transactions, it could be publications or conferences or money, all these happen online. So you need to be in tune with it. And being in tune with the latest technology developments is really the key to break this glass ceiling that Dr. Jasmine Begum was speaking about. So I'm going to very briefly discuss 5 barriers which I think are important. First one would be childhood prejudices, whether it's nature versus nurture. The second is access to resources. The third is male-centric technologies. The fourth is paternalism and protectionism, which we see very often. And the fifth one is the lack of role models. So let me, this is the first one. There has been evidence both ways that boys and girls think differently when it comes to spatial and temporal data processing. So they believe, it's always been believed that boys are better with understanding spaces around them and negotiating that, whereas girls are not. There are biological differences, but work with problems such as riding bicycles or playing what is in India is called the gilli danda, where you have 2 sticks and you start hitting one, the smaller one with the larger one. Girls are exposed to these kind of sports where they negotiate spaces, they are much better. So this is something that's very trainable. It doesn't matter whether nature works for you or against you, training can take care of this. Is important because most girls are stereotyped. The toys that we give to children, girls are given cooking toys, whereas boys are given cars and other things. So here, I think we have to start right there and say that, look, you cannot differentiate between girls and boys and how they can or cannot handle machines. And second, lesser access to resources. Many girls are not given digital devices or not allowed to use them for long, since digital spaces can be unsafe. In households where there are limited number of devices, we have seen, especially during the pandemic, that if there is a brother and sister and there was only one device, the boy was preferred to get an online education as compared to the girl. because the family thought that that was a better investment. So again, there is a lack of access to technology and to devices and to resources. Even if there is an access, the access could be to a very minimum degree. That is, a male child could be given a smartphone, whereas a female child could be given a very simple phone saying this is enough for you. And these are not unknown. So not having adequate access to resources is a major issue. Even if the technology is given, even if you provide the best technology to girls and to women, technology itself is biased. Handheld devices are mostly made for male anatomy, whether it is the keyboard spacing or the size of the phones, it's meant for a male hand and not for a female hand. Something is done to take care of the needs of the female body, of the anatomy, the price tag attached to that goes up very much. This is the most obvious example I can think of are the razors. Male and female razors do the same job. They have the same blades, but just adding a fancy pink color, the price of the razors goes up tremendously when it's marketed as a product for. To AI is gendered, and there have been multiple studies. Scientific data has always been gendered because many of the medicines were tested on male rats. So especially the cardiac medicines, there is a problem because they're always tested on male rats. So there is no taking into account the female hormonal changes. We have been seeing this, and this was called out and has been addressed to a certain extent, that using voices, AI voices have always been male, but with a female option like GPS in a car. But instructions receiving, like Alexa and Siri, had female voices. Now they have addressed this because people called it out and said that it is not acceptable that when somebody is obeying instructions, it has to be a female voice or something else, not even somebody. Today, they have tried to take care of this, but yet there is a problem. Alexa recognizes a female voice. Google has taken care of it. But apparently, Siri does not recognize a female voice. You have to go to a lower tone and then start speaking for it to understand, because it's set for a male voice. So what happens with this is it reinforces the stereotypes subconsciously in the general public. So a child who's using technology begins to believe that technology is male, which needs to be avoided at any cost. To me, the biggest problem is paternalism and protectionism. Like Professor Begum was saying just before me, that we should start without barriers. The barriers often are in the name of protectionism, which is to say that this is for your good that I'm telling you. Paternalism is to use laws intentionally to override another person's actions and preferences for their own good. Protectionism usually implies infantilization. You treat the person as a child, although they might be a full-grown adult who can make their own decisions. For example, girls are usually not allowed to use phones. Your space. Many of them are not even allowed to have their own Facebook accounts, have social media presence. Even if they have, they are told don't use your photograph as your DP because it could be misused, etc. This is a combination of paternalism and protectionism. What we should be doing instead of that is to actually educate them on cyber safety, cyber laws, and invest time in ensuring that their presence in the digital space is very fruitful, instead of scaring them and saying, please don't participate. The last hurdle, as I understand, is the lack of role models. So today it's very nice to see so many women who are techno savvy and who are able to navigate these spaces, because the younger women who look at this will understand that these spaces are very accessible. So, at post 50, years of age, if many of us can actually interact with digital technology and learn and participate, the younger women will be prompted to do it more. Many of us, there have been a strong lack of role models because in families, it's the men who have always been associated with technology, especially for an older generation like ours. So we need to see more and more good role models among women using technology, not just using technology, but being present in those spaces as uh, people who decide what the technology is, what the inputs for artificial intelligence are, what kind of programming needs to go on, so on and so forth. And this would really ensure that there is a much larger participation. Needless to say, intersectionality is a big, big issue because women are at a perpetual crossroads of multiple disadvantages. So economy is one, gender is the other, where they are in class and society is the next. Societal norms, laws, family is a huge issue. So one cannot think of a single solution, but actually start catering to removing these barriers, and it should start, in my opinion, at the family. So what could be some winning strategies? I don't want to end on a pessimistic note, so start early and please avoid stereotyping children. I think we all need to learn this, especially in play. And that would really take that would make a huge impact on the girl child psyche. Provide enough digital resources to girls who might be deprived of the same for any reason. Like, especially in educational institutes, we have a responsibility to ensure that all students, especially girls, have access to digital platforms, even if their families cannot provide for whatever be the reason. Demand technology to be gender sensitized, but without being expensive. It has to be gender neutral, but you cannot ask the women to pay an extra price just because they are including what should be said. Not take away women's right to participate in the digital space in the name of protectionism and expose young girls to tech savvy women to be their role models. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Madhurima, for a very interesting presentation. And now, and we will open the floor later for discussion. Can I have Ms. Fatma, please, to take the floor now?
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Professor, and thank you to all the members that are present here. Thanks for the opportunity provided. Yeah, I have been in the IT sector and I've been seeing the world as a woman. So most of the points are covered by Dr. Madhurima. It is a very exhaustive and all the points are almost covered. Anyway, I will try to do my level best from the preparation that I have made. Unlike Madhurima, mine is more internet based. Actually, I have collected most of the information from the internet, and I am surprised for the volume of information that is available and so much comprehensive work that is happening in the field. In spite of all the efforts, the gap is still there, and as per the estimates, it takes about 136 years to close the gender gap. That's what I read about. It's quite surprising, and also it is a fact that we see on the ground, we still see many issues. So I'm going to cover the barriers in 4 dimensions. The first one is the skills, second one is the infrastructure, third is policy and regulations, and the fourth one is in innovation and entrepreneurship. Now, in the area of skills, Madhurima's presentation covered everything, right from the mindset from childhood to lack of availability of cell phones or digital phones to girl child, and in apprehension against technology for most of the women, this covered by Jasmine. So this way, the skills wise, there are some basic issues itself. and mostly women, like girls and women, don't have the cell phones, and because of that, the learning is the next step. Once they have the device, then they can play around and learn something. So that's one of the barrier. So the subject that is given to us is talk about barriers. So I'm talking about only barriers. So that is a barrier where we can find innovative ways of providing cell phones, low cost cell phones, or different ways in which society, means different organizations, different NGOs are working on how to provide cell phones to every girl, child, or women. So that's the first barrier regarding skills. And once they have the cell phone, then they have to develop appropriate network. Generally they are surrounded. Their network is limited to the neighboring women or family, where the learning also becomes difficult. So how they will network and how they will pick up the skills, that is the next step once they have the cell phone. So in the skills area, there is still a gap to be bridged. Then when it comes to infrastructure, in some of the APAC countries, I heard that still women don't get the ID cards, the basic ID identification. And once that is not there, then the SIM card cannot be given, and thereby they cannot procure a cell phone. This is the next dimension, another dimension of procuring a cell phone. So women are treated differently, and they don't get the ID. That is a big problem. So that has to be addressed. And another dimension in the infrastructure area is which is not just women specific, but it is generic. That is, in some remote places there is no power, there's no electricity, and there's no internet. So there also a lot of innovation is happening as to how to take internet to the remotest villages, and how to empower everybody, even in the village atmosphere. So in this, men folk can go to a place where there is power or there is internet, and then they can use the systems, whereas women are not allowed to go out of the house. These kind of restrictions also come into picture. And I also read that in some countries, digital payments are done through cell phones, because of which women are forcibly made, which is good in a sense that they have to learn how to use the digital payments and how to draw money. So that way, in countries where government is doing payments only through digital means, there is a better education of digital technologies to women. So that's one preferred way where government can enhance the education to women and girls on digital systems. And also there are sometimes the agents are used to deliver money, which is not a suitable way for women, because again they have to meet another man, which is again a constraint society wise. So the easy cash in cash out systems would help in women learning the digital technologies faster. And coming to policy and regulations, we already saw the limitation of not having an ID card. So such policies and regulations should be removed, and there should be gender parity. Any country, while formalizing any policies or regulations, they should keep women in mind, and women-friendly policies are required. That equitability between genders should be made sure when they're formulating the policies. Okay, and also in many countries, opening a bank account is a big hassle. They need so many documents and proofs and different things, which becomes difficult for women. So I read one interesting article where cell phone itself can be used, if there is e-money. E-money is introduced by governments, and cell phone itself can be used for money transactions. There is some advancement happening in this direction, I read. So that will be a real, booster in women learning the digital technologies. So in this case, there is no hassle of, like, most women have mobile phones than having a bank account. So their mobile phone itself will become handy for digital transactions. And this is some innovation, I think, that we should progress so that all women can transact digitally and economically become economically become free in using the digital systems. And another innovation is tiered KYC, that is for low income groups, very less KYC, and as the bank account numbers keep growing, the KYC complexity can increase. And I also read about microfinancing companies who are opening savings accounts for daily laborers. So daily laborer women can deposit money everyday basis, 50 rupees, 60 rupees, whatever they earn. So that is also a very good thing, where women get to know how to transact money online and how to do digital transactions. So these are some innovations happening, but it is in less numbers, and it has to be widespread. So this is another barrier. Policy and regulation is definitely a barrier where a lot of work needs to be done to ensure women's advancement in digital learning. Okay, and the last one is innovation and entrepreneurship. As we already saw, the women don't have the financial muscle. Generally, whatever property is there, it goes from man to man, that is father to son that way, and women's names are not there in collaterals in many places. So they do not have any collateral, though they are very rich. That's the reality. And so they cannot start the companies, or even if they have ideas, getting finance from outside is also a problem. And also in the STEM area, in like science, technology, these areas, women education, women numbers are lesser than men. At least it is shorter by 10%. And so wherever the scientific advancement areas or the innovation in these areas, the possibility of women starting entrepreneurship possibilities are also lower. And another big difference comes in knowing the digital platforms. Post-COVID, everything is happening digitally. All the openings or opportunities are available on digital spaces only. So unless women have access to digital platforms and they start using it, they don't even have the knowledge of the opportunities that are available. So this also gives a gap in women's accessibility to innovation and entrepreneurship. Yeah, so these are the key areas where which are the barriers in women learning and becoming digital economy friendly, and then using digital money. So I think that is the first step in advancement. Digitally, all women should be well equipped. So we have to work towards how to bring that up as a whole. So this is my brief presentation on this.
Thank you very much, Padma. Very, very interesting presentation. I will allow a couple of questions. If there are any questions on the floor or in the chat room. Are there any questions in the chat? I can't see any questions in the chat. Are there any questions from the floor, please? I can allow one or two questions. Okay, if there are no questions, I will just very quickly point out the things that I have learned this morning from the two presenters. The first thing is that when Dr. Madhurima talked about all these handheld devices, you see, it never even occurred to me that these devices were basically made for male hands. I used to wonder, why am I struggling with these devices, trying to get on, get and hold these devices when they're made for male hands, because they're just big and our hands are small. So that was one of the things that was very interesting to be pointed out. The second fact that was pointed out, which I found very interesting, we all know about drug testing, etc., but I never even thought that the drugs were tested on male rats. So again, women are left out even in the rat space. So, and in the labs when the testing is done, female rats are left out. So this was a very interesting point that were made by Dr. Madhurima, and Padma has highlighted from her readings from the internet, and of course this perspective I'm sure is not just based on her readings, but also from her own experience, because she's been working in the sector for forever, I think, almost forever she's been working in the sector, and a lot of barriers that she has identified from her experience. I think they are very interesting and useful barriers for us to be aware of, because, for example, the infrastructure, that's one of the things. So I think the first barrier that you talked about was just give me 1 second, the skills. Okay, obviously there are, the skills gap is huge. And the second one is the infrastructure. This again, for instance, if you don't have an ID, you're actually nobody in the system. You are excluded from not only from a SIM card for accessing any kind of services. If you don't have an ID, first thing I ask you is for your Aadhaar card or ID. In Malaysia is the ID. In India is the Aadhaar card. If you don't have that, you can't access anything. You can't access health services. You can't access education. You can't access anything. So that is one of the things, the ID. So women need to have ID. And there are many parts of the world where women, because of the nature of the society or whatever, don't have IDs. The house has ID, the male head of the house has ID, but not the women. So that is another interesting factor. And the thing is that bringing in, I think there's a lot of innovations that are going, the policy and regulations, of course, everything starts with policy and regulations. The policy framework is in place and there are good regulations to institute that the gender dimension must be incorporated in all aspects, then it becomes a very important factor. And also there are microfinancing companies. And then as well as the fourth barrier that you talked about, innovation and entrepreneurship. This is another area which is very interesting, because there are women who are very entrepreneurial, but again, they face barriers. They can be innovative, but they face a lot of cultural and societal barriers. I thought I saw one question in the chat. I think
Girls do well in education. The first programmers are women. But do they lack transferable skills such as collaborative and innovation? From whatever I read, the women collaboration skills are very high. That's what I read. Yeah, the collaboration level, women's is much higher than men. That's what is the statistics is showing. But I think the apprehensions and then the networking, they'll fall back on having networking, appropriate networks, and I think STEM area itself, people are less. Those are the more inhibitors. But as far as I have seen in my career, as well as per the statistics, collaboration is good with women. That's what I read.
Okay, Dr. Madhurima, do you want to respond to anything very quickly?
Yeah. If the first programmers were women, but the credit of that was given to the men because they worked in the name of the men. So women were not allowed to be in STEM areas for the longest time. And the fact that there are very few women in STEM even today means that networking becomes difficult, because who do you network with? Since the men tend to form their own groups, it's very difficult to break into that barrier. So of late, we are realizing that, groups of women working in a given subject need to network across countries, across geographies, so that we have this network forming. So the problem is not so much in collaborative skills, but the opportunities that are given to collaboration.
Okay, if there are no other questions, I think I need to move to the next panel session. So before I...
Excuse me, ma'am.
Sorry. Okay, there is a question from the from one of, I think it's one of my students, saying that how can women live without an ID? I can't imagine how a woman can live without an ID. Okay, I'll leave it to the panel to answer. I have my answer, but I'll leave it to the panel to answer.
I don't know if there's even an answer to that, because women have always been denied of an identity, including their first programmers, because they were not allowed to project themselves. So
Right.
it's ingrained into us that we don't have an identity to start with. Your identity is with reference to somebody else who's typically a male. And
Right.
this is why we
True.
say that it has to start at childhood, whether you want to change your surname, everything becomes a problem with your own identity. To maintain that, I think as a society, as humanity, we need to change and stop stereotyping.
Okay, let me. Okay. What is the question? I can't see what's Jacinta's question. Why women are less noticed and not preferred as the role models? Is fear of sexual abuse a deterrent for girls being given cell phones and tablets? Okay, any quick response, and I want to end the session. I have to end the session.
Okay.
Any quick?
I will just very quickly answer both of them. Why are women less noticed? Because there are lesser women. That's all. It's just the numbers are there. So look at any institute, and you will find barely 10% of women, and there are statistics across. And is the fear of sexual abuse a deterrent? I don't think it's the fear of sexual abuse as much as the parents or the male guardians believing that they could be subject to abuse, and hence protectionism and the protectionism attitude and infantilization that I was talking about. Saying that you are not capable of being safe in this ground, so don't be there.
Right. So thank you very much to my both wonderful speakers for opening up so many issues and highlighting them, and some of the things that we don't even realize but take for granted. So can I ask the audience to join me in thanking my speakers in the usual manner? Okay, now I'd like to pass the floor to the moderator for the second panel session, who is Tunku Christina. Tunku Christina, are you there?
Yes, I am over here.
Yeah, I hope your speakers are there. I have dug out Dr. Taisir at a very unearthly hour, because she's based in Iraq. Dr. Taisir, are you here?
Yes, I'm here, Dr. Prof.
Yes. Hi, Dr. Taisir. Thank you for waking up at a very unearthly hour.
Thanks to you, Prof.
And Bhuvna, you're also here.
Yes, I'm here, Prof. Sulu.
Yes, for Bhuvna, it's a more reasonable time. But okay, Tunku, I'll hand over the session to you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, I guess, everyone. I realize this is a very global conference, so I'm going to put that one out there. My name is Christina, and I'm the moderator for today's session on reducing gender disparities and improving access to technologies. I'd like to first and foremost welcome our two speakers for today, Dr. Taisir Hamid, Senior Lecturer of Banu University in Uzbekistan, as well as Ms. Puva Nesvari, or better known as Coach Bhuvna, the CEO of QF4 Tech Asia Sdn Bhd in Malaysia. Welcome. So before I proceed, I guess I should just kind of have a very quick rundown about who our speakers are, what their backgrounds are, and then I will then proceed with a bit of housekeeping, just a reminder for everyone, and then we can start with the presentations. So as we all know, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people are very familiar with Dr. Taisir. Dr. Taisir has been, sorry, I'm just bringing this up. She has a PhD in Information Communication Technology from Tenaga National University in Malaysia, Selangor, on the development and implementation strategy of using social network as an e-learning tool for MSCs in Malaysia. She also has a master's degree in computer science with a concentration on software engineering specification for dynamic website design from the Al Nahrain University in Iraq. And she also has a bachelor's degree in computer science from the Al Nahrain University in Iraq. So I suppose Dr. Tasha has a very practical background as well at the same time as being an academic. Since 2021, she's been a senior lecturer at the Banu International University in Uzbekistan. Prior to that, she was at the Tenaga University in Malaysia, where even before that, she's had some practical experience of working in IT, where she taught programming language as well as various IT courses. Now, our next speaker is Coach Bhuvna, if it's okay that I refer to you as that, Coach. Coach Bhuvna is a technopreneur and a trainer with 14 years of experience of working in telecommunications as well as the IT industry. She's a longtime influencer, technology enabler, business strategist, and coach. She's an expert in mentoring startups and tech companies to reach a niche market through the online platforms. Her academic background includes an MBA from the City University of Malaysia. I'm not sure, but is that UniKL?
It's a City University.
Oh, it's called City University, right? Okay, cool. Now I know. Bachelor's of Engineering in Telecommunications from Anna University in India. She's also currently a member of the Malaysian Institute of Management and National Association of Women Entrepreneurs of Malaysia, among others. So now that we're done with introductions, and before we proceed with presentations, I would just like to make a very quick housekeeping reminder. Each speakers have 20 minutes to present. I will inform you of your remaining 5 minutes. And after both presentations have been done, we will be having a 5-minute question and answer session. I hope that's all clear to everyone. And now, without further ado, I would like to welcome Dr. Taisir to the floor.
Hey, thank you, Doctor. Good morning for all. Let me share my slides. Okay, first of all, good morning, everyone. I would like to introduce my thankful to Pansiri, to Prof. Solo, to Prof. Asif, and Miss Ozana, and everyone, and for this opportunity to attend this conference. Let's start with my presentation. Actually, before I want to start my presentation, in terms of equality or gender equality, when I was in the university in last of 90s and 2000s, the percent, it was 75% of ladies in computer science college and 25 only in my college. They were guys. And this is a very good in a country, in third world country like Iraq. But I don't know why girls in my country, they like to study computer science, which is good. Anyway, let's start my presentation, reducing gender disparities and improving access to technology. Okay. Actually, I go through to what is gender disparity, and we need to know, or we need to realizing the potential for gender equality in digitalization. And also I will go through how we can supercharging an equitable digital future, and then I will go for some recommendation and conclusion. Actually, let's go, I want to go, what is a gender disparity in general? Gender disparity refers to reasons of contributing factors such as poverty and traditional and culture practices. Behind the gender gap is in education and in other public areas for girls in comparison with boys. Generally, gender disparities persist in enrollment and retention rates for girls at the level in education. Okay, to realizing the potential gender equality in digitalization, digitalization is central feature of modern societies and functional tool for achieving sustainable development. Access to digital tools and technologies unlocks opportunities for social interaction. It is also key to the future of work and more broadly for the future development. Okay, for example, for digitalization is telemedicine services can improve access to health care, facilitate, extend and improve healthcare coverage, while e-governance can support public services and increase interaction with users and their participation in decision-making process. Actually, gender equality in digital sphere has assumed increasing importance in digital and data-driven transformation of two main things, economic and the governance system. However, digitalization is not gender neutral. To release its full potential, its general dimension must be taken into consideration. Failing into understand and address differentiated impacts of technology on women and men is likely to increase the gender digital divide. Here, the gender gap ranking of selected Asian countries. Actually, this is in 2020 and 2021. This explained the gender gap ranking in some countries, Asian countries, according to the world, definitely. We start with New Zealand and Philippines, Laos, Australia, Singapore, Bangladesh, Thailand, and ending with Afghanistan. And this up and down is according to 2021. Okay, so we go through how we can supercharge an equitable digital feature. We have four main points that we can supercharge the digital future. First, close all gaps in digital access and skills. Second, support women and girls in the science, technology, and engineering and mathematics. Create technology that meets the needs of women and girls, and address technology facilitate gender-based violence. First of all, close all gaps. How we can close all gaps in digital access to bridging the access gaps will require more than just better digital infrastructure, addressing factors like affordability, access to electricity, online privacy and safety, social norms, and digital skills and literacy will be the key, or the main things is the literacy will be the key to getting women meaningful connected. Okay, no, there is no one sector can help in this. Maybe private sector, governmental sector, business, civil society, and women organization, human rights, all can collaborate to reach to close this gap. Also, successful policy. We need a successful policy making will also require to increase the research on barriers to women digital access, as well as data collection on efficiency and efforts to overcome them. Governments need to invest in evidence-based programs and inventions, support smartphone and laptops for women and girls, and incentive the saving of low-cost data plans can go a long way to overcoming granted access barriers. Applies to digital literacy programs. This is very important point for women, which can help or give women and girls the skills they need to lead, connect, and successfully shape the digital. Number two, how to support women and girls in the STEAM. Also, today women remain a minority in both STEAM education and careers, representing only 28% of engineering graduated and 22% of artificial intelligence workers, and less than 1/3 of technology sector employees globally. Without equal representation in these fields, women participation in shaping technology, research, investment, and policy will remain certainly limited. Okay, also working to eliminate gender bias from school is also one of the key. and is ensuring that girls have access to women mentors in STEAM fields with whom they can identify. To help women succeed in changing labor market, target skilling and upskilling programs should be created, focusing especially on groups most on danger of being left behind. Okay, to support women and girls in STEAM, and expanded labor regulations are needed to ensure that labor market transition improve the position of women rather than simply producing existing inequalities. Okay, to how we can also supercharging an credible digital future, we can create technology that meets the needs of women and girls. Digital access gaps mean women produce less data than men, and a lack of data disaggregation leads to unequal representation in data sets. This had major downstream effects on machine learning and artificial intelligence enabled services delivery. A global analysis of 133 artificial intelligence systems from 1988 to today found that 44.2% displayed gender bias, with 25.7% exhibiting both gender or racial bias, which leads to lower surface quality, unequal resources distribution, and reinforcement of harmful stereotypes. Governments need to step to outline companies' responsibilities, mandate monitoring mechanisms such as gender impact assessments, and ensure data use transparency through mechanisms like mandatory artificial intelligence audits. Okay, the 4-point address technology facilitate gender-based violence in the online sphere. In the online sphere-based violence also force women and girls to self-concern and deplatform, limiting their ability to engage and participate virtually. As social media become as increasingly crucial space for both socializing and organizing, it has also become a key site of generated disinformation and misinformation, hate speech, and more, all of which undermine women's online expression and movement. Okay, action is urgently needed. Expanded legal framework must be developed in coordinate with women organizations and centered around human rights. Policy makers should coordinate with the judge sector, civil society organization, the media, and other sectors to develop coherent response and strategies for mitigation. Okay, in terms of conclusion and recommendation, we recognize that from what the gender equality and women empowerment and the full realization of human rights for women and girls have a transformation and multiplier effect of development and are driver of economic growth in developing countries. One of Millennium Development Goals for ensuring equality of peace across the world to remove the gap between male and female in digital space. All male and female have and equal rights to education and equal of quality of education. If careful attention is not paid and major steps are not taken, the situation will become extremely critical. Greater digital access for women would expand their economic opportunities and better positions them in the labor market, especially considering the impact of digital transformation and automation on employment opportunities. Okay, by using technology to provide educational resources, training opportunities, and access to information, we can empower women. The world needs to simultaneously rescue women with immediate measures, and one, on the other hand, strengthen the next generation to deal with super fast technology and digitalization. Finally, teaching digital citizenship can help cover issues of on online violence while also installing empathy and ethical digital media use. The teaching boys and men become advocate for gender equality. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Saeed.
Thank you so
Well, great. That was basically 50 minutes.
Okay, good. I
Really
try
very
to
tired.
be in time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was a great presentation on how we can actually kind of work our way to beat the disparity that exists. I heard a lot of mention about how there's quite a disparity as well as fulfilling the Millennium Development Goals as well as the SDGs in terms of also investing in a lot of systematic infrastructure. We'll get to the questions on that later. So, you know, if everyone has any questions, please hold them for a bit, or you can actually even just proceed with putting them on the chat box so we can get to it as soon as the next presentation is over. But before that, I would like to invite Coach Bhuvna to give her presentation. Coach Bhuvna, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Sanku. And also, it was a great session, Dr. Taizir. I see like she discovered everything in regards of how to eradicate or how to overcome the gender disparities. Is it my voice is enough audible to everyone?
Yeah, your voice is crystal clear, but sorry, just before that, Dr. Tyson, would you mind just stopping screen sharing because the screen is still being shared on Zoom? Coach Bhuvna, over to you.
Thank you, and good morning to everyone, all of you here. And also, like, first of all, I would like to thank Prof. Sulo and also Tantri Rohini and the entire Binary University team on giving us this opportunity to take up some of the couple of minutes with all of you. Right. I felt very guilty when I'm seeing like every one of them has prepared so much in terms of their presentation and all that. So I do have a very short presentation that I made it very fast. But before that, I would like to actually give a small introductions about me and how can I relate myself into reducing the disparities in terms of the women to get access into digital and technology. Right? Because when we are talking about technologies, we still have the fear as a woman to get into it because there are many pillars available and this has been a man-dominated. So I would like to touch a bit on my forte, which is a digital and technology. So let me shortly introduce myself. And this is my 17th year of being in career. I've graduated from Anna University as a Bachelor of Electronic and Communication Engineer back in 2006. And I was fully studied with Anna University, even though it's affiliated to the college that I've studied. It's one of the college in Tamil Nadu, India, Vivekananda College of Engineering for Women. And it is basically in my hometown in India, but I am a Malaysian born, but I do have my mother who has the Indian origin. So that brings me closer to India to do my engineering degree, right? And when we talk about the disparities, it starts when I completed my engineering degree in 2006. And by the time I come back to Malaysia, I feel like it's very hard for me to penetrate into the job market. But there is one opportunity immediately knocked my door where through connections that some of the companies that looking for a fiber optics engineer. So I just get perfect fit for that. So I managed to get a job, but I was given a job as sales engineer, right? I never been sold anything, but that makes me to even take up the role because the company that I've worked with, they have a very huge experience in fiber optics, the exact core subject that I studied with. So immediately, without thinking anything, I thought like, oh, this is my best thing that I can take up. So I immediately take up my role, right? And after I take up the role, like I've been working with that company for 9 years. And I got married in between, and I got 2 children in between. And also I've been in between of job with the same company for 2 years because I married to an Indian. So I have to go back to Coimbatore. I stay there for 2 years, and I find like, I need to fill back my career because I felt that I was outdated in the industry, right? And I'm seeing like all my other friends who studied together with me has been in abroad, none of them in India, right? Most of them, they migrated to Singapore, they migrated to Dubai, US, UK. So I felt like I need to also upgrade myself. Otherwise, I'll be always being a homemaker after that. So that fear made me to stood up and made myself to have a conversation with my in-laws in India and also with my husband, so that I want to continue back with the career that I started with. And along the way, in 8 years that I was with the same company, 9 years, and I also have a very strong mindset that I need to become an entrepreneur immediately after the 10th years of my career. That falls exactly in 2006. So I took a very, very hard decision because I want to follow what I've written in my journal, right? That has happened in 2006. I say like, I want to be my own boss, a lady boss in 2016. So even though the situation doesn't allow me to do so, but I take a very hard decision to become an entrepreneur in 2016. And now it's 7 years. March 2023 made 7th year of entrepreneurship journey for me, and I own 3 companies. And I've been working, I started as a software development company in 2016, and then I take up another role as a corporate trainer. So I'm focusing on training people on digital transformations via agile methodology. And during the COVID, I find like another business opportunity to also knock door that I'm focusing on new way of marketing, which is digital media. So we embrace augmented reality, virtual reality, and also the video productions and all that. So over the time, I only find myself, if I never come out of this disparities in terms of access to technology or the opportunities, no one else do for me. Okay, that's about myself, right? And when I'm looking into what I've done in this 10 years for others, when I become a corporate trainer in 2018, the first opportunity that I got is a government-funded program there. They need a subject matter expert or a practitioner to come and deliver something about the online business for the underprivileged women. And it's about 40 people, the women that I first get exposed to share my knowledge with, being amateur as a trainer, and I've never been get exposed to the underprivileged women's mindset. It was very, very hard for me to penetrate them because as of what we are looking into, their social and also the economic barriers, made me to not feel bad about him or sympathize to them, but I feel that the gap is very, very huge. They have the thought to get into entrepreneurship or they want to build themselves for a better economic situation, but they don't get the right guidance. No, every one of them, like we have been giving them some assurance, hey, we are there to help you out, but how are you going to help you out? And that particular moment, I can even remember it's a November 11, so it's 11/11/2017. That is the first engagement that I took up to start working with the underprivileged Indian women to bring more online presence to them. And until now, it's now about close to 6 years, I've been working with the community together with some of my NGO that I'm working with. So one of the NGO that I'm very, very closely working with is the National Associations of Women Entrepreneurs of Malaysia, NAWEM. I'm also part of the ESCO community, and I'm working in the IT committee where we are working on the website and also all the social media pages of my NGO. And it is full of women, and we have a very less people who has the technology adaptations, but we managed to overcome without having any men to help us. So we have been doing that. And in 2021, I took another leap towards my technopreneurship where I founded, together with some of the awesome women together with me, we founded Malaysian Association for Women in Digital and Technology. And in short, it called as a MAVIT. And coming tomorrow, exactly, we are celebrating our second annual general meeting. And when I'm looking into the transformation that made me to get closer to the gender disparities where we can get access, it's not that we only see what are the barriers, but we break the barriers and create some inspiration. I saw like one of the message Jacinta has made. She said like, how can we create an inspiration for other women? So in my perspective, right, in this 6-7 years, I've been always get closer to the women and tell them that it is very, very possible. And we show them the way how they can do that in a very, very simple way. Like I just take up their phone and then I go and check it out. Hey, you are having a business. Do you have your Google business profile is updated about your business so that people can call you when they found you on Google? They said, no, we don't have. I quickly install that immediately, get them to connect with all the information, teach them how to verify and make them to actually proceed with a Google presence. That is very, very simple for us, but it is not possible for those underprivileged women who don't have the access to the right knowledge to access the technology and also specifically on participating in the digital economy, right? And some of the good things that I have been hearing when I'm working with the underprivileged women in Malaysia, I've always get some positive message with them saying like, hey, Bhuvna, because of you now I start earning in online. Hey, my online presence is good. Even I've got called from the local channel, radio channels and TV channel. They have been interviewing me because of the visibility that you have created, right? So here I wanted to bring like a 3 important message. If we want to bring the access of technology very close to women, the number 1 rule is to increase the social visibility, right? Like how I utilize LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram to speak more about what I do so that the women, the underprivileged women, they can follow me, they can follow some of the funded programs that I used to share in my network, and they get connected, they join into it, and that makes them to change their life. Because when we say, in order for us to get access to the technology, there are many, many funded programs. So one of it, like what Dr. Jasmine said, she said like from Microsoft, they have one of the program under Asia Foundation. So NAVEM has took up one of the Asia Foundation program, which is a tech for her. So we have run 2 programs during the COVID time, and we managed to actually bring so much of changes for the women who are just started within their business, but they don't know how to bring that through online. So we teach them on the proper setup on each of the social media page, and also how to set up their e-commerce site, and how to be participative with Alibaba program, and how can they connect with Martrade and other government agencies so that they can start exporting their product. Some of them even managed to get halal products, halal certifications, and they managed to get into the global market, right? So there are programs are available, but it's just that we have to bring that closer to them and then tap their shoulders, saying that it's very, very simple for you. It's just that your time commitment, and you keeply go on that. So the social visibility will bring you very, very close access to the technology. That is number one. And the second point that I wanted to bring in over here is about the collaborations and the right connections is also can bring ourselves closer to the technology. If I say like, how can I make that easier? There are many, many organizations, women organizations particularly, has been helping out women regardless of their economic stages in Malaysia. So whatever that I'm talking is about is purely from the Malaysia part of it, because I'm working very, very close to many women organizations that building up digital and technology space, right? One of it is like VENA. Very recently, I've been working with the Women Entrepreneurs Network Associations of Malaysia. And VENA is startup with the global mentoring program that is also collaborated with the Ministry of Women Entrepreneurship in Malaysia, and also the Voice something. And with a few of them, they come up with 100 mentees and matching them with 100 mentors, right? So in that sense, I find like it's very much easier for us to connect with the mentees, and all the mentees manage to get their success rate to be added to the worst, right? To the best from what they are. So one of it is the program that I've been doing is Zero to Hero Digital Entrepreneurship Women Incubation Program. And this particular program is about a 3 months program where we are working with all parties parliamentary group Malaysia. And they are focusing on sustainability development goal. And most of the programs that they provide for the underprivileged women is to improve their income generation solution related programs, right? And even they are not
sorry to interrupt, but just to let you know, you have about 5 minutes left. If you would be able
to. Sure, Christina. I'm just about to finish.
Sure.
Right. And also this particular program is funded directly by the United Nations SDG goals. And this has been channeled to APPGM SDG Malaysia. So that means like there are many, many programs are available. It's just that we have to get closer and be more participative. And the third note that I wanted to bring on here is about how can we be more branding, right? So the branding will help you out to get closer to decrease the gender disparities, to get access to the technology is by involving into different organizations and brand personally as a woman, and this will make you to get closer to that. So all these practices that I'm sharing here with you guys is whatever that I validated personally and made me to inspire myself. I get a good position, and also I managed to get my business to run in a very good manner. Equally, I'm inspiring the other underprivileged women. So just to make all these conversations, right, I wanted to share just the picture of the women that have been now taking care, like a 10 underprivileged women, where they have been from the very rural part of Malaysia, like we call that as a Dengkil, very close to my office. And they managed to earn a very, very good income after the 3 months of incubations, right? So for me, it's all about how are we going to actually bring the changes for the women is matter, right? So let me try to check if any way that I can able to share that. You guys can see that, right? And this woman, she is just started as very small groceries. After the digital program, she managed to start selling in e-commerce. And this lady, she started a printing company after our guidance, and now has been doing very well in TikTok. And this particular lady, she don't have any kind of educations, but she's having a poultry farm. So we also brought her into the social media. Now she started working with government funding, right? And also we not only bringing them out of the digital, but also we bring them more exposure in terms of their branding and also like image building. And this is the ladies that together in my office. So I felt like when we inspire them by showing our success, they get inspired. There won't be any things that will stop them. Okay, so with that, I would like to actually end my presentation. So I'm here to inspire every one of you to get into the community involvement in terms of digital and technology access.
Thank you so much, Coach Bufna. That was great. I think we got a very good insight on what you have done, and also an insight on exactly how there is no limit and how women can actually break past the glass ceiling. Now, I'd just like we have about 5 minutes here for Q&A. I would just like to ask if anyone would have any questions on the floor. Are there any questions? Right. So I'm not sure who this is. Sophia from Fatima College in Tamil Nadu. Right. So just to start things off, Coach Bufna, Sophia has a question where she says that
yes,
she has a question about
I actually got that.
Are there any CSR activities that you offer to any of the companies in India? If so, what are the CSR activities that you have?
Sophia, I've been used to talk about technology and innovation, specifically in a women college. Like I've been a guest lecturer for PKR College of Engineering from Gobi Chettipalayam, and also Banariaman Tech. I'm also working with a few universities in Tamil Nadu. Since I'm also being from Tamil Nadu, right? I used to even coach personally some of the underprivileged students from Banariaman and PKR, how they can actually get access into technology. I've done that. I've been doing that since 2018. Yeah.
That's amazing. If I could just kind of abuse my position here, I would also, we have about 3 minutes left. I actually want to ask Dr. Tarsir a question and kind of make a comment. I kind of want to also mention that it's very, very interesting that at this conference, we have a very good representation of a non-Western society, and that is indeed very rare, especially when talking about digital gap. I also want to ask Dr. Tasre about her experience on overcoming difficulties in becoming a woman in the IT sector, especially since Dr. Tasre herself had mentioned that indeed women dominate the IT industry in Iraq. So Dr. Tasre, could you just very quickly answer that? We have about 3 minutes left.
Thanks for your question. Actually, in Iraq, especially in Baghdad, is very civilized country. In Baghdad, the capital of Iraq. As I told you before, when I entered computer science in the university, I find 75% of in the classroom is women. Our girls, and only 25 of boys. So, but in Iraq, a problem, actually, for my experience, I wasn't faced any the normal difficulties. Not, I didn't face, I get very high position. I was very young. I get as a training manager when I was 25 years. So because I got my master degree. So I didn't face the women and, you know, and guy, this inequality. Yeah, but the issue here in Iraq, the rural area, and some cities in the south of Iraq, in the rural area, this is they really face this problem because of social considerations, or because of families. This is really, they face some problems. But in general, and the second difficulties in Iraq, the war. The Iraq faced many war in many times, you know, the different times. So this is the difficulties the women faced here. Otherwise, technology and everywhere, but the two main reason nowadays, the war, and after the war, what the people they are faced after the war, what they suffer after the war, and the social and the family you know, difficulties they face. This, yeah, exactly.
Right. So really, just, are there any cultural like stops, as in like the society says because you're a woman you cannot be in IT industry, for example, in Iraq?
Not that much, no, especially in Baghdad, as I told you, but some in the south of Iraq, some rural area, maybe they face like this. But I told you, I haven't faced. I was very young and I was training manager in one company, an internet company, a provider company. So I haven't faced this. Yeah, but only the problem that I told you, the social, the family, some family issues, some cultures issue, and some rural area. Exactly.
Right. Thank you so much, Dr. Taksir.
Thank you so much.
Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have for today. Thank you so much, Dr. Taksir and Coach Bufna. I think all of us learned a lot. We've definitely learned a lot on how there's a lot of solution-based presentation to ensure that women are able to achieve. And then from Coach Bufna, we have a very good insight on how women can actually overcome challenges in many ways with a little bit of help from technology. So with that, thank you very much to both speakers, as well as the questions from the floor, and the many comments of motivation itself from everyone. Thank you so much. Over to you, Prof.
Thank you very much. Prof. Asif, do you want to come in?
Yes, thank you very much, Chair of the session. And it's really very wonderful to listen to all the presenters. Now we are coming to our third panel discussion for today's session. This is on increasing participation of women and girls in STEM education, the speakers will be Professor Ram Ramaswamy, Visiting Professor, Department of Chemistry, India Institute of Technology, India, and Engineer Dr. Hafza Jamshed, National Textile University, Pakistan. And the session is going to be moderated by Ponsri Datin Professor Dr. Rohini Devi, the Deputy Vice Chancellor of Binary University, and also she's the Director of the Center for Women Leadership. That is a center that is holding this conference today. Young Barbhagia, Ponsri Datin Professor Dr. Rohini Devi, is actually an educationalist and a social entrepreneur. She's a certified practitioner of neuro-linguistic, and she's counseling at present. She trains the international colleges on entrepreneurship and leadership. She's the executive chairperson of International Skill Development Center since 2017. Among her company ownerships, she is a co-founder of the Binary Group of Companies, which includes Binary University, Binary College, Binary Properties, Sadian Bahat, Binary Management, Sadian Bahat. Young Bagia, Ponsri Professor, has a lot of academic write-up and publications in reputed journals. Now, not only in the academic journals, she has a lot of publications in non-academic journals as well, and newspaper like Star Publication, the Tamil newspaper, Indian Economic Roadmap, 11th Malaysian Plan, the Mentor Walk organized in 2019, and this is some of her work that she has been doing. She is definitely a social entrepreneur. Her civil and social activities includes, but not limited to, Binary Global Scholarship Fund, Binary First Lady Scholarships, Binary Malaysia, YIEF Scholarship, Binary Pelajar Bumipatra 1994, Back to School Program, Tamil School UAPSR Exam 8 Program, and more and more. Among her membership in different international and esteemed organizations, Pon Sri is a member of the Harvard Business Review Advisory Council, an opt-in research community of business professionals. She's a member of MIM, a member of IMM, member of Lead Women, a member of MABE UK. Among Pon Sri's hobby, she loves to listen to music, reading, and gardening is one of the passions for Pon Sri. Among other activities, she's a board member for grants and scholarship of the Binary University since 1990, chairperson for donating and grants in Binary College. She's the vice president of QNIS Putrajaya, the member of the Business Ethics Group, the deputy president of Malaysian Organization for Development of Indian Women in Career, Entrepreneurs, and Professionals. She's a member of Malaysian Organization for Development of Indian Women Career, Entrepreneurs, and Professionals. So just a brief bio. I can keep on reading the bio for long. And just before I pass on to the moderator of the session today, among her personal achievement, she loves to put a smile on every student's face, and she would love to help many students from poor income families to graduate and secure a job that she has been doing very successfully over the years. Over to you, Yambagya Pon Sri Professor Dr. Rohini Devi, for the moderation of today's session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Prof. Dr. Asif. I thought I'm going to be the speaker today from the way you introduced me just now. Thank you so much. Right, the first session for today is increasing participation of women and girls in STEM education. And I would like to welcome Dr. Ram Ramasamy and Dr. Hafsa Jamsat. And they are both from the educational background too. For a start, let me say a few words about Dr. Ram. Dr. Ram earned his PhD in chemistry from Princeton University. He held positions such as professor, researcher, vice president, and vice chancellor in very famous university in India. He is now currently a visiting professor in IIT, and he held many visiting positions in many universities internationally too. Dr. Ram was awarded many awards and honors for the contribution to science. He is a true-blood chemistry professor who has dwelt into gender issues. He has carried out numerous research projects on gender and women in science. Some of his projects include Leelawati Daughters, the women scientists in India, the Girl's Guide to a Life in Science, Gender Diversity in Physics in India, the intervention so far and the recommendation for the future, a fine balance, making it work for women in science, and many more. I must congratulate Dr. Rama, and I am very inspired that he's the only gentleman here for today, and I'm proud that he has decided to join the ladies in this conference. Dr. Rama, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rohini and Professor Sulo for this invitation. Thank you all for everybody for inviting me to speak over here. I do realize, Dr. Rohini, that I'm the only man in this panel. So it is a challenge. Do I have permission to share my screen?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I have a presentation. Do I take it I have about 20 minutes?
Yes.
Okay, so I will not explicitly talk about the, wait on. All right. Okay, so the panel title is Increasing the Participation of Women and Girls in STEM Education. And what I would like to tell you about is what the situation is. I will focus only on STEM, not on entrepreneurship or very interesting talks that I've just been listening to right now. But I will focus only on STEM education because this is a concern. There are very few women in science, and here's a famous photograph from 1926 with all the great people of physics, and there is one woman. Marie Curie, who everybody recognizes and who's sitting third from the left in this picture. But even in as late 10 years in 2013, people in the major countries are still asking the question, why are there so few women? In India, the situation is actually starkly portrayed by this photograph, which is a picture of all the directors of major institutions in India, the IITs and all these science education places. And there is not a single woman. So there has been this concern in Indian academia as to why there is such a low participation of women in higher education, particularly in the area of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. In medicine, not so much, but in these areas, the numbers are worryingly low. In actual terms, women's participation is low. Their representation in major scientific bodies or faculties of science or what have you, and I'm going to share some data with you, that is low. But most crucially, women in decision-making positions are few. See, Professor Sulo, you are leading a university in Malaysia. There are very few women who are leading universities in India. Few in comparison to the number of universities. Now, this is not an Indian or an Asian problem. If you look at, in fact, in some of these things, India seems to be doing a little better. If you look at scientific academies or, recognition, places of recognition, the Royal Society of England was founded in 1660, and the first women were admitted in 1945. Okay. The French Academy of Sciences was founded in 1666. The first woman was admitted in 1979. The National Academy of Science of the United States was founded in 1863, and the first woman was elected in 1925. Indian Academy of Sciences was founded in 1934, and that very year, Janaki Ammal was a member. So, because we started a little late, it's like cell phone connections. You start late and, you can be ahead of the curve. But this is very telling that all over the world, women were not recognized or in some cases, not even allowed to be recognized. In India and in many parts of Southeast Asia, Indian science is dominated by an upper caste male elite. And this is a historical fact. This is an unfortunate legacy. But there is little that we can do immediately, or we can't do it fast, although I will come down to it. we have legislated social diversity at all levels through reservations. So there's supposed to be so many percentage of this caste and that caste, and all of you are familiar with the way in which socially, diversity can be legislated. But these are not easier barriers to overcome because sometimes getting in is the major difficulty, and the representation unfortunately becomes skewed along the pipeline. Just 1 second, please. I'm not able to get rid of some of fine. Got that. All right. So when it comes, so if you have a lot of difficulty getting in, then when it comes to recognition and positions of leadership, you're simply not there. At the same time, we know that women are very prominent in public life, especially in South Asia. But this is an issue of class versus gender. All over Southeast Asia, we've seen women wielding immense political power, unlike the United States, which has still to elect its first woman president. We've had Indira Gandhi, Aung San Suu Kyi, Benazir Bhutto, Sheikh Hasina, Sirimavo Bandaranaike, and others. But there are very few such examples in the sciences. In academics, maybe about 10 women directors of major laboratories, and again, 10 or so women vice chancellors. Outside academics, there are women who head large industrial laboratories. Names of Kiran Mazumdar, Swati Piramal, etc. are well known. But this is still few. And many of the interventions tend to be at the micro level. And for example, as Bhumana was talking about how to get women entrepreneurs, but that is a very far cry from major corporations. And the reasons for this are more linked to the class from which the women come, the caste from which they come, and the legacy. Many of these women are either the wives or the daughters of famous people. And you can see that that is generally true. So the sociology is also complex. But some years ago, the Indian Academy of Sciences made a Women in Science panel. And our main, there have been a number of initiatives. One of them was this book that Professor Rohini has mentioned, but I'll tell you a little more about it. And we also provide information and mentorship for women scientists. And also, more importantly, try to understand the social dimension of this problem. Why are there so few women? So we asked this question first in 2007, what does it take to be a woman scientist in India today? And instead of just going to Marie Curie and Rosalind Franklin and all other Western role models, we asked, what about the women in our own country who are doing science? So we invited 200 women of achievement and profiled a few from our modern history. The name Leelavati's daughters is going back to an ancient mathematical text by a mathematician called Bhaskara, where he asks, the point of this entire text was to ask problems. So he's asking Leelavati, tell me, if I take all the numbers 135 multiplied by 12, what are the digits that will come, etc. So there are many different topics inside this text. And the fact that it is addressed to a woman seems to suggest that women also were being educated in mathematics at the time, because of just the context in which it is given. However, today, an Indian woman who aims for a career in science, and by a career in science, I mean as a university professor doing research, she will need both courage and determination, and actually a lot of it. Here is the profile of Janaki Ammar, who was the founding fellow of the Indian Academy of Sciences. She got her PhD in 1931 in Michigan because she came from a somewhat privileged family. But because of her choice of career and her Gandhian style of life, she actually never got married, and but had a very fulfilling career in science. This lady, Kamala Soni, was refused a studentship at the Indian Academy of, at the Indian Institute of Science by C.V. Raman, the Nobel laureate. But she persisted and went and got her PhD in 1939 from Cambridge, and eventually became the first lady director of the Institute of Science in Mumbai. An important point that, when you read these 100 or so essays by women, and this book is available online, so, people can access it without having to purchase it or acquire a copy. Purnima Sinha was the first PhD in physics from Calcutta University. And here is a picture of her with S.N. Bose, who is a famous physicist of Indian origin, and Dirac, who is one of the great Nobel laureates. The fact that she got her PhD in physics encouraged her daughter and her niece to more PhDs in the family, also in the sciences. Leelavati's Daughter was a book that came out in 2008, and it was reviewed in Nature because it talks about the trials that women undergo in trying to do a career in science in India. But I think that the picture in most of Southeast Asia would not be very different. The themes that go through these essays are that what's crucial if you want to succeed in science, you need parental support, and when you choose to get married, you're going to need in-law support. An important point, and I am saying this particularly to Binary because this is a talk at Binary with such a big panel of women, is that role models in school and colleges, female role models, are very important for women to pursue careers in science. Everybody needs help during their early career, but especially for women, and the unequal division of household labor in India, there is need for help during the early career, especially for raising children. And it's very important to have mentors and senior colleagues. And sometimes luck just plays a role, one can't count on that, all right? So in India, the enrollment of women students in schools and colleges is high. Their level of achievement, that is the marks that they get, is high. But the participation of women in research as a career is low. So if you have more than 50% women in schools and colleges, and they are occupying all the top positions in the examinations, why is their participation eventually in career science so low? The attrition rate increases as you go from school to college to university and to careers. Now, these are problems across the developing world because we realize that it's important to attract girls to science, but it's more important to keep them there. So you must create the means to manage a science career. Many parents and many women also think that it is impossible to have a career and a family. And this is a message that needs to actually be sent out very, very strongly, that it is not impossible, especially in this 21st century. We need to sensitize parents. And from an early age, we need to inform educationists, students, parents, that girls and boys are absolutely identical when it comes to intelligence and achievement. In India, particularly, it's important, because it's a poor country. If there is a financial difficulty in a family, usually the people who will suffer are the girl children. So offering financial independence in India, for example, if you have a girl child and send her to school, very often the fees are waived, so education is free. Even that doesn't make sure that everyone comes for education, but that's an important thing. As I'm winding down, let me just share some real data with you. Here are the Indian Institutes of Technology in India, and the percentage of women faculty members is really less than 20% across the board. In some, it is as low as 0%. The numbers of faculty are variable, but in the larger IITs like Bombay or Delhi or Madras, where you have more than 500, the number of women faculty is actually only about 10%. Now, this is an unnecessarily small number. Even in departments, there are more you see, the way in which this table should be read is, in biology, there are 30 faculty and 9 women. In chemistry, there are 34 faculty and 1 woman. In engineering, there is 264 faculty and 26 women, so less than 10%, right? So this is how it goes. It's uniformly low, but it's not just to bring out these numbers. The women's enrollment at the IITs is almost 30%, or a little more than 30%. So if the faculty enrollment is only, the faculty representation is only 10%, this means that a lot of women who are students are not finding their role models or their mentors among women faculty members. It's not necessary that a woman student should find a woman faculty as a mentor, but knowing our societies and knowing the reality, it is true that on average, women teachers tend to have slightly larger number of women working with them. The importance of role models cannot be run away from. We are losing far too much women power, which is being trained, and this is a waste of human resource that we cannot afford. And this is so the point that I would like to make is that really we lose a lot of women, not because women are not good enough or that they don't want to do science or whatever. We lose a lot of women because maintaining a career inside an organization that is designed by and designed for men can be really a major challenge. And this is what I mean when I said that women need a lot of courage and a lot of determination. Sometimes very simple things. There are not enough toilets for women, or there is not enough childcare. There is, classes are held at ridiculous times, which make it very difficult for women particularly for women to participate. There is not enough security. These are all things that men would not even necessarily think about. And when we found that it was necessary to go beyond just looking at numbers and ask people why you did not, have a career in science, the reason wasn't that, that they were overwhelmed by family responsibilities after childbirth or whatever. The fact of the matter is that what they found, and I'm just giving you an idea that we asked a large number of people, the lack of job opportunity is the main thing that they complained or they alerted us to. There is no selection, no transparency in the selection procedure. Women said that they could have easily managed to hold a job, but the whole problem is that they were just cut out of a job right at stage 1 essentially because of bias, right? Most women who chose to have a career then, or rather a larger number of women in research did not even get married because sometimes that is an impediment. So the study that we made says that an Indian woman scientist has a lot of courage, a lot of ambition. She ensures that she balances her career and family and works really hard at it. So we need administrative reforms, and again, I believe that this is probably true all over Southeast Asia, There's a real commitment, a need for a real commitment to gender sensibilities, not just some patriarchal attitude that facilitates women because the United Nations said so or whoever said so, right? There is a systemic bias at the institutional level, which actually puts this glass ceiling for women in science. And it is necessary because inclusion of women, as well as other disadvantaged groups, brings a lot of diversity in the workplace, and that a number of studies have seen that this improves the quality of science. In closing, I think that it's important to have this conversation as to why women are being kept out of positions in STEM, and therefore eventually leadership positions in STEM, is mostly because of male-dominated institutions that are not changing. Our legacy is that we are a male-dominated society, especially in Southeast Asia, but we are also aware that there is a need for change, because if we change, we can bring a lot of diversity to institutions, and the diversity of an institution correlates very strongly with its vitality, with the kind of new ideas that can come forth, and so on. Okay, so we need to change policies, and that is where we can actually make a positive intervention as to how to do this. The digital space offers one way of bringing in more women scientists, but the digital space also does not address the crucial issue, which is that there is an attitude that has to change. My fear is that by emphasizing too much on digital access, we still have an invisible parda, or this barrier, the curtain, because you hide behind the screen. I would so much have liked to have been with you all today and to talk in person and let you know my opinions straight out in front without having to be at the other end of a Zoom screen. So I think that this is an important part, that we need to actually change the policies. We need to make sure there are role models and mentors. We need to keep all doors open, make the hiring rules transparent, and make diversity a major goal in hiring policies. And above all, we need to encourage, encourage, and encourage. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Ram. It was a great insight and information. Before we go for the question, let me just summarize what you have just said. You said that very few women are in the decision-making position. Then you also stated that Indian science dominated by upper-class male elites.
I said upper caste actually, but also upper class.
Okay, and you thought about the issue of class and gender here, which I'm curious to know more about. The other area I see is female role models in schools are very important. You have actually emphasized on that. Participation of women in India is in research is very low as compared to the enrollment rate. So during the question and answer, maybe there will be many who are eager to know more about all these insights that you've given.
I'd be happy to answer at any point in time, but I think that seeing Professor Sulo at the head of Binary University, I think every faculty member thinks I can also be a vice chancellor. Right? So no, I think that this is an important message to get out. You know,
Okay, before we go to the question and answer session, I would like to actually introduce Dr. Hafsa for her talk, and thereafter we will continue with whatever relevant information we all like to share. Right? Dr. Hafsa is an associate professor who is a director for graduate studies in National Textile University in Pakistan. She earned her PhD in textile techniques and material engineering at Technical University Liberec, Czech Republic. Hafsa has more than 20 years of experience lecturing and research in material engineering, industrial engineering, and textile. And being an expert in her field, she did not stop by diversifying into many other professional training and international projects for the development of industrial fabrics. She authored many chapters in research books, published in many reputable journals. She authored books and attended invited international conferences in China, Czech, Croatia, and Germany. Dr. Shah, we welcome you today here. You can have the floor right now, Dr. Shah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Can I share my screen?
Please do.
Yes, Dr. Shah, all okay?
Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Okay, first of all, it's good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are. So first of all, I would like to thank you to Professor Solo and Dr. Nooni for your presence and allow me to talk about women in STEM. As I am an engineer, so this is one of the example that I can present myself over there. And to be very honest, I believe with the Professor Ram that as India and Pakistan are very close to each other and we have many things common. So we have not very huge amount of women in STEM, especially in engineering. We like to be our ladies in medical field, but not in engineering field. So if I would like to talk about myself, so when I was interested in doing my engineering, so my father was not agree with that. His thought was that this is not your field, this should be done by some boy, and especially in the textile, because textile is a male dominating field in my country. And when I worked in the industry for the first 2 years, it was a really huge male dominating because I was the only female over there and there are 300 male workers who were working under me. So, but definitely it was a challenging job and I did. And later on stage, when I started teaching in the university, I was the only female in my department. And still today, I am the only senior female in the whole university who is in administration position. And as a female, I hope so you all can understand this is not easy to be a part of this activity, because when you are sitting in the meeting and you are the only female with the 25, it's something not easy to be convince people about the basic things. But still I'm trying to managing, and you know, when I'm over here and I am just listening the Miss Pravina, like the lady, she talked about her company and other thing. I was really inspired that people are like all females are doing their effort best to be in their field. But overall, it's a fact that we are not very encouraging in female in education, particularly in STEM education. So first of all, I would like to be that where do we stand and what led us here and where to form here. And this is one of the very important things because women are the dominant part of the world population. And with the year passing of the time of the 17th, or if you talk about the 18th century, where women started participating in the fields of technology. It was the 19th and 20th century when women were allowed to excel and show their range of excellence, devotion, and I believe intelligence that led to many new research and new developments in the world. This is in the whole world. This is not very, because recently I was in a program in the USA, and it was a 2-week program in the Michigan State University, and we met many deans and many senior officials, and we heard very similar stories over there too, that these women tried their level best to be part of this stage at what they are at this stage. So this is what I believe in the whole world people are, especially women are facing these things. So these barriers and opportunities are always, and it depends upon us that how we can find new opportunities from them. So women I talk about overall today, women are majorly in STEM education and careers, only 28% of engineering. This is the global information that what actually I am presenting over there. And according to UI's data, less than 33 is the latest, that is what we have till 2019, that 33.3% of the world researchers are women. Still is a huge amount as compared to the before, but still less if you compare it with the gender equality. And without equal representation in these fields, women participation in shaping technology, research, investment, and policy will remain critically limited. We cannot think like that, because neglecting women means wasting a valuable resource, because they are equal around overall. And the untapped potential of professionally educated and trained women, significant missed opportunity overall for the society and overall for the whole. And especially if we really want to pursue the sustainable development goals, it is very important that women should be equal part of in each activity. And if we talk about the Nobel Award, this is one of the biggest awards in the world. So we can see very few women if you compare it with the male. This is the latest data till what I can find. And we can see that overall there are 58 female out of 876 male who got the Nobel Prize, and also very limited in science. Mostly are in peace and in you can see in literature, like there are 4 in physics, 7 in chemistry, and 12 in medicine. So we can see that overall there is a very less amount of female who got this Nobel Prize, and this is what we have a gender gap. And this is for the whole why I'm presenting this slide is that to show that this is common problem for the whole world, not in the developing or in the Asian countries. Yeah, we can say that this is a more problematic in these countries, but still this is a problem for the whole world. And we can see this is the gender gap. The Georgia has the highest, where they have women participation in the STEM career jobs, that is 55 points. But otherwise we have, these are some countries where have a good amount of female in careers, where there are STEM careers. So this is one example, a lady who is one of the a pioneer in artificial intelligence. She is also a lady. So we cannot say that women cannot be a part of the STEM education. Why I am saying, because it is very common in our culture that people thought like that normally men are good in maths, in engineering, and many other things. There was a survey was conducted, I don't remember exactly the date, but maybe in 2016 by the British Council, and mostly female are agreed that their counterpart, their husbands are more intelligent and they are more good in maths and science skills. And this survey was conducted in Pakistan, and it was mostly female. Either they are educated or not educated. They are convinced that their husbands are more intelligent than them. So this is one of the problem that how we brought up our kids. and how it affects their overall complete their thinking and other things. So in the world, if we talk, women experience different types of issues, just like we. And this is not something that very unusual in the world. Women also face some types of harassment and many other issues when they are working in technology. They are not getting higher positions and many other things. So although in the world, especially in the developed countries, this issue is taken care, but Pakistan still faces a lack of awareness. And this creates a big problem. And in developing countries, women are still fighting over their fundamental rights, even the right to live, because mostly families don't like have female kid in their family. Not very worse situation, but they don't like. They are more ready to have a boy kid in their family. And later on stage, if they are a kid, they are don't ready to spend any money on a girl, because they thought that she will be leaving after marriage that house. So why to invest money on her? And these are the problems that women are not very much involving. Even in our school age, we have a very less, if we compare male and female, although we have almost 32% children are out of the school, especially after the COVID. But there is the major chunk is from the female students that are out of the schools. In Pakistan, the low socioeconomic status of the woman is the beginning of significant drag on the growth and country, because it is one of the problem, and we have very second to the last in the gender gap. And this is something that we are, our overall government is very much curious about that. There are different things they started. I will mention in later stage. So women accounts almost 50% of the total population of the Pakistan. So we cannot leave them just not doing anything. Almost 20% of them are working in labor force, and mostly women are at home. Because in our culture, we don't like to be, women should be working. We mostly believe that she should be at home and she should be take care of the kids and other activities. So this is very important that we need to be considered for our for the progress. These are the few examples of the women who, especially Pakistan women. The Nargis Wagala, she is basically Karachi based, and she from the Pakistan, and then she shifted to America, and she discovered this, and she was there with the Naseem Zahra. She was and also find out the waves movement, and these both are like from the Pakistan and from the STEM education. And these are the role models for these some ladies, and especially if I talked about myself, so these are. So like later stage, government has issues many good things. They are like providing free education, some books free, and some other opportunities for the kids to be in schools. And recent data what we have from the UNESCO, that is female researchers are in a huge amount, and they are very comparable to the developed countries. But the problem is that the female researchers are in very good amount, but either they don't get married because of their education, and people are not ready to be accepted in their family. And in the second stage, if they got married, then they are not doing to be pursue their career. Very few women are pursuing their careers after, especially doctors are not pursuing career even in Pakistan, because they have to manage their family, and family is not supporting to be there with them. So there are different obstacles that women have in higher education in Pakistan. And, you know, people have different type of stereotype things about that, because we believe that male are more good in maths and other things, and women are more good in household activities. And this is one of the stereotype that is the biggest problem for changing the mind of the people. So definitely it's not an easy thing to carry out. So we all have to do work. And this is the time to get serious, that we need to know how to use the 50% of our population to be utilized properly in the economic growth of the country. So this is a study that was conducted by a macro level, in which it is mentioned that there is a different, women are not part of in different careers. And there are a lot of gender roles, stereotypes, ideology, as I mentioned. that people don't think like that. Women are not going to be here with us, so why to spend money on her? And also sometimes the women are not good in engineering and maths and other things. So they are more good in arts like subjects. So people are focusing for their girls to be studied over there, or maximum to the medical fields. So this is a some, but if we have overall have the women are in part of the STEM education, it will definitely help quality of life of the family, poverty reduction, happier society, because our economic growth will be increased. And to increase inclusion in STEM education, definitely we need to include the students from the earlier career, from the small school, and we need some role models in the schools where women teachers are there, and that attract the women that they can be a part of these activities in future. Also, we need to have different types of motivate students. We have to involve them in different types of activities. The women should learn about from the other developed countries and also from the Asian countries. We have a many good examples women who did work, especially that mentioned by previous presenter over there. So also we need to be involved women in different types of activities, that is after school activities. That can be a summer camps, that can be a science fairs and many other things. So that students and women feel like to be develop new things, because normally it was an also survey conducted in Pakistan that normally women are shy for asking questions, because they thought like that when everyone will ask the question, then they will ask, because they don't have the confidence of that. So this is also one of the problem. If we don't give confidence to our female population, they will not be, don't have the career growth. So this was an Asian foundation who have, as my colleague previously mentioned, she worked for them too. And it is very important that inclusion and diversity must be like all part of the people should be there. Like there should be a private sector, there should be the government sector, all should work together to improve that. And at present, government of Pakistan is also doing a lot of things, as I mentioned before. Also, we have some scholarships, particular for the women in STEM, especially since last 10 years. Government is particularly considering these factors that women should be the part of these things. And for that, we need to be this was the study that the Asian Foundation did, and they have that we should encourage our kids in these, like their early childhoods. They should have learn STEM education, then they should go to the later stage. They should provide some opportunities for them where they can have a career growth, and then they provide the others for the new careers, because this is a closed loop cycle. If we all move together, then it can be a further improve. So women in technology, this is very important that we need a proper, because this is one of the important things, like although there are some women, but the overall our cultural issues and our environment issues are not very good. As mentioned before, that we don't have even female washrooms in the places. We don't have daycare centers. We don't have flexible hours working, because women have to take care of their kids too. So these are the issues that mostly don't like. Sorry. Yeah, I'm just going to finish. So like the women are so they are not getting to be having that part of that. So as I mentioned before, in the world, it's the 11th February is the International Day of Women and Girls in Science and Observe. And I believe this day is an opportunity to promote full and equal access for women in science that we can do by different activities. And as I mentioned, we are doing in different types of activities with that. And I strongly believe that women need science and science needs women. They both are connected together. They cannot be lived without them. If you are just think that men are only the person who are doing in one field, this is not possible. So STEM is the future, I strongly believe. And the percentage of women is, although we have very comparable to the developed nations, but still we don't have very much career jobs for the women in Pakistan. That needs to be a proper training, recruitment, and provision of safe working environment, because this is very important for the female to be as an employer in your organization. And I believe that women hold up half the sky. And as the women participation and leadership grows, STEM industries and companies will become more innovative, because you have more minds, more ideas, and it will help to increase your
grow, especially your economic growth. So let us not fade to gray, but instead encourage a rainbow of perspective and experience. We should all encourage each other, because I strongly believe if women encourage other women, that is a very important thing that we should be considered in our society. And I would like to be thank you for the Binary University that they provide this us to be for supporting women in science. This is very important because this topic is very close to my heart. So, and overall, I would like to thank you to everyone who is present over here. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Afsar. It was a great presentation. You actually went into how women in Pakistan suffer to become a STEM graduate. From your talk, can I say that what I understand is in Pakistan, women are still a minority, because you see it is only 22% and then 28% of them are participating in the STEM. You also said in society, people think that men are better engineers. And because of this, women face issues in their careers. The other issue I understand is cultural issue in Pakistan, where women, just like in India and in some places, in Malaysia, in some families, where women have to be at home and mothering their children and taking care of their families. And that is also one reason why they have 50% of women population who are not educated. Right. So female researchers that we find in Pakistan are higher than the developed countries, we say. That is about 38%. Right. So I guess this is what my summary is about. And let us proceed to the questions from the floor for both the doctors on STEM. Is there anyone who have a question for them? Since we are running out of time, I will ask.
There was one question upon three. There was one question from Dr. Geeta.
Dr. Geeta.
Yeah.
Yes, please proceed.
She had put it in the chat box. Can I read it?
Yeah.
Okay. Glass ceiling has always been cited as an obstacle or barrier for women moving up, whether STEM or non-STEM. An urgent need to change in attitude might be equally important too, both from society and family. What's your view, Prof. Ram?
Well, as I mentioned, these, the glass ceiling has been put by men just to keep women down at a certain point in time by making these rules. I think that there needs to be a societal change, but a lot of it also has to do with the elementary education of boys. Unless you convince, unless you educate everybody really all that they're all equals going from the ground up, this glass ceiling cannot be easily shattered. I think that sometimes there is a real ceiling between people of different abilities. I'm not addressing that. The glass ceiling has, in terms of gender, has to be stopped. There are other glass ceilings also that we don't allow people from, depending on which country you are, sometimes people from different religions cannot make it beyond a certain point, or from different political views or what have you. So these kinds of, barriers to achievement, they only hurt the society finally. What we need is the best person for the job in the right position. And one of the ways of getting over it could be that everyone is educated about this right from an early, from an age when they are beginning to make decisions for themselves. So already in high school, I would say. And I think the world is ready to accept women's participation in leadership roles. As I said, in India and in Pakistan, in Southeast Asia, not so much Malaysia, because I haven't been, I don't know your country that well, but we've seen very prominent women at the top. But they're all linked to a certain kind of legacy and privilege. But still, the fact that you see a woman makes sure that you can aspire, in a way which is quite fundamental. So I think actually that increasingly the world is accepting of this. So anyway, this is what I feel. I also realize that I'm now speaking when I've retired from a career and so on. But I think that at least for the last 15-20 years, I have been seized with these kinds of issues and tried to work on them. So change is always possible.
There's another question here from Ms. Vasidi. Professor Ram, we as humans are not endowed with disparity between men and women in terms of intellectual mind. You think the world is ready to accept women's higher participation, especially in the leadership role?
I was just addressing that, Rohini, as I was, I saw that on my chat box also.
You have addressed it already.
No, but I also think that, this kind of a meeting, I don't know who's seeing it right now, but if it makes some kind of an impact, I think that it can actually, these are the things that catalyze change.
I have a question. Is there any more question from the floor? Okay, let us round it out with my question. What role does companies play? You did mention the women need support from the parents, from the in-laws and all that for them to participate in STEM. So how would you actually explain what do companies and industry leaders play to increase this diversity and inclusion of STEM?
Well, you see, depending on the society, first of all, I don't think it is just a problem for people in STEM. This is a general problem as to what is holding, full participation back. I think it is also important to study the problem from a sociological point of view. Because the kind of problem that Indian women have, I'm pretty sure that Pakistani women don't have. And nor do women in all other parts of Southeast Asia. So each society has to figure out what we need. In India, for example, the child care is a major problem. You don't have good creches, you don't have good facilities. So many Indian institutions and industries also have childcare facilities on site, so that women can work without having to, run home or stay at home in order to look after young children. This is, I don't know, Dr. Hafsa, would you say that this is also a major issue in Pakistan?
Yeah, it is one of the major issues in Pakistan, because we consider that women should be taking care of the house. So mostly women have to leave their job when they have to be decide for their care. Because in mostly companies in Pakistan, we don't have daycare centers. Yeah. Like even in my university where I am, like at present, there is no daycare center.
Mm-hmm.
So this is
in such a situation, I think, parents can play a major role. I mean, it's not ideal to have your child looked after by your parent because we've all.
But the problem is that if you don't have parents in the same city, or then it's a huge mess.
Exactly. No, I was just trying to address the question in a way in which I think that this is what many women who wrote about their experiences in Lilavati, they basically said that, look, if my mother hadn't come, or if my mother-in-law hadn't come, I simply would not have been able to have a career and do whatever I could.
Thank you.
Also, it would be nice if the husbands helped, huh?
Yeah, especially I just want to add one thing more, because in my career, like my husband did a lot for my dad, because my family was not there. My father and mother was not there. So when I decided to do my PhD from the Europe, so I left my kid with my husband. He is alone. He managed my kid was 4 years at that time. And he managed him. And my second kid was during my PhD. And I left my kid when he was just of 22 days. And my husband managed my both kids. And, sometimes, men do a lot for you.
But, well, anyway, then, so Dr. Rohini, you see the importance of support.
Yeah.
Right.
Support is always needed.
Dr. Hafsa, we are running out of time here. We can have this conversation in another platform. All right. Okay. If there's no question from the floor, we will have to end this session here. And I would like to firstly thank all the speakers, the panels, the moderators, and also Dr. Ram and Dr. Ashif for joining all the women here. Right.
Bye-bye, and thank you very much for including me.
Pass this moderation, the next moderation on to Dr. Renuka. Dr. Renuka is the dean from the Stella Maris College. And over to you, Dr. Renuka.
Hello, Dr. Rohini, and thank you for inviting me. Can you hear me, please? Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes, thank you very much. Good morning and good afternoon and good evening to all of you there. It's an absolute pleasure for me to participate in a global conference hosted by the Binary University, a much valued partner institution of the Stella Maris College and the Center for Women's Leadership. At the outset, my thanks goes to Professor Sulu, Vice Chancellor of the Binary University, and Dr. Rohini for inviting me and Dr. Mireen to be part of this important global conversation to discuss the role of women in a digitally mediated world today. It's my privilege and pleasure to introduce Dr. Mireen Simiraj before she delivers the special address of the conference. Ms. Dr. Simi Raj is officially designated as the Associate Professor in the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences based at IIT Madras. She is a faculty coordinator of the Center for Memory Studies and co-founder of the chairperson of the Indian Network for Memory Studies, the first national network in Asia under the aegis of International Memory Studies Association. This organization, I must say, is gaining academic global attention, and we would credit Dr. Mireen Simiraj for her investigation and involvement in the making of this study, this memory studies. She researches in memory studies, historiography, and modernity studies, Anglo-Indian studies, and digital humanities, for which I believe she was at the University of Oxford to take a deeper and closer experience on digital humanities. She co-edited the volume Anglo-Indian Identities, Past and Present in India and Diaspora from the Palgrave Macmillan, and currently is co-editing the Brill Indian Handbook of Memory Studies. And I'd like you to understand that a lot of the humanities studies the courses that she has taught is related to feminist writings and women's studies, and particularly in the area of digital humanities, which is her gender interest as well. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Miriam Simiraj to deliver the special address. Her discussion on memory bytes as a digital and mobile archive will highlight the entanglement of gender and the digital archive. So over to you, Dr. Miriam Simiraj.
Thank you, Professor Rajaratnam, for this really wonderful introduction, and Professor Sulochana for this invitation. I am absolutely delighted to be here, and it is fascinating to see the range of vectors through which the question of the concerns about gender in the digital age is getting discussed. It's an absolute honor to be here. And I will keep my discussion as short as possible. I really wouldn't want to stand between you and lunch. Yeah, I understand that it's almost lunchtime over there. So I would straightly start with a brief discussion on a mobile digital archive that we created here at our Center for Memory Studies. So we have been running this center for the last couple of years, Center for Memory Studies at IIT Madras, and we have been aiming to work at the intersection of humanities and technology. So some of the things that we have been trying to do were looking at the processes of writing history, looking at the the neurological and cognitive processes of memory creation through a humanities lens, but also with the use of technology, because technology, as we know, has been changing and rewiring and reconfiguring the ways in which we remember, we preserve, and also we access information. So this is something that we use as a very pertinent lens while we are looking at some of the questions which have been very central to feminist thought, and some of the concerns which were very, very pertinent in the processes of identity formation as far as, different gender identities are concerned. Yeah? So we have been at our center as part of our work. We've been primarily working with XR tools, extended reality tools, which includes augmented reality, virtual reality, and mixed reality. So this is like, an immersive experiential set of tools, which would also help us to have a more empathetic and more involved and a more experiential engagement with the number of, things related to narratives, related to experiences, various other kinds of texts that we have been traditionally engaging with. Yeah. So we primarily work on augmented reality and virtual reality. Just a very quick introduction to these concepts. Augmented reality is something, it's a mobile-based tool, which engages with the physical reality, in the sense that, for instance, when viewed through a certain application, which has been programmed to do certain things, when viewed through this mobile application, the physical object placed will get animated, for instance. It could be, it could have a 3D dimension. We could add videos and audios to it. It could be interactive, and basically, it alters the ways in which we look at the physical object. And virtual reality, most of us would be already familiar with it. Virtual reality is it's a completely immersive experience which does not directly engage with the physical world at all. It creates a virtual world all by itself, where we can travel through spaces which are not otherwise physically accessible and experience it with all our senses. So there are these Oculus sets and a lot of virtual reality VR gears which would enable that. Yeah. So we worked on a certain mobile application which was based on augmented reality called Memory Bytes. Yeah. So it's available in the Android version as well as the iOS versions are available in the Play Store. So the uniqueness of this app was that this was based on an ongoing research. So the last for about 4 or 5 years, we've been working on the Anglo-Indian community. Anglo-Indian community is a mixed race community, which is about like a 5 centuries old, 500-year-old community, on which there are no state archives. There is no one-stop place from where we could cull out this multiracial kind of history and identity, because since the Anglo-Indians are these descendants who stayed back in India and also, later migrated to different parts of the world from the time of the Portuguese invasion. So there are, Anglo-Indians of Portuguese origin, Dutch origin, then of course, the British origin. And as part of that, we also have Scottish, Irish, and, there are French, of course, yeah. There are these different combinations and permutations as well, yeah. So in the post-colonial telling of Indian history, this is also a community whose story, whose identity got, massively marginalized. Yeah. So one of the ways in which we've been coming into this research on the Anglo-Indian community was also to assimilate their stories and also to give a uniqueness to the kind of experiences that they had in the pre-colonial as well as in the post-colonial space. So one of the binaries that we wanted to contest and wanted to get past was this binary of the post-colonial narrative, where there's a dichotomy between the experiences after independence and the experiences before independence, which was primarily dominated by the colonial empire. But in the case of the Anglo-Indians, yeah, who's they are like half British, half Portuguese, half Dutch, half French, there is a sense of mixed loyalty and also this inability to identify one particular land as a homeland. Yeah. So when we talk about their identity, there is this complete inability to operate in these, in this binary, in this very binary sort of situation where they have to ascertain their loyalty to this country or that country. Yeah. So we find that there is a post-colonial experience which is an extension of colonial modernity, and it has to be captured in a very, very different way. Yeah. And also, there are a lot of stereotypical notions about the Anglo-Indian community. The men were seen as very lazy and unwilling to commit to things, and women were seen as very available and having loose morals. And there is a lot of stereotypical representations which were available in popular culture as well. Yeah. And fiction, movies, documentaries have all dealt with that. Yeah. And both men and women, we find that, they have been subjected to this very stereotypical sort of a representation. There was a perception which heavily altered their possibilities, heavily restricted their opportunities. Yeah. So this was the premise. This was a context within which we were also conducting this research. So we began to realize that one of the ways in which we could bring together the history of this community in a more mobile and fluid form was also to see how this could be translated in the form of an app, in the form of a mobile application. So what began as an experimental journey, in fact, resulted in this full-fledged mobile application, Memory Bytes, which captured the 500-year-old history in various ways. Yeah. So what we had done was, there was one extensive timeline which showed the movement of the community from, one place to the other, the different milestones which emerged, and also a series of segments, almost 10 sub-segments, which looked at various aspects like cuisine, religion, about the culture, about the particular kinds of performances and particular rituals which define the community. Yeah? And what we also, very interestingly began to observe was that a number of contributors to this curated material that we have in terms of photographs, the archival documents, as in, sometimes, these archives were also part of their personal collections, like a marriage document or a baptism document. Yeah. So we brought together a number of these things together, and we realized that a number of these contributors were also women. Yeah. So this gave us an additional vantage point to this kind of history telling, which was interactive and participatory and very, very women-centric. So in some sense, we could realize that this transition from his story to her story, which was also, which is getting increasingly talked about in a number of post-colonial settings, yeah, this possibility of having a her story, yeah, was emerging as a reality. We had the participation and interaction from a number of women from within the community and also from outside the community who have, who's had friends or, colleagues or neighbors, or who knew somebody who taught, an Anglo-Indian teacher who taught them in school, college, wherever. So we found that this really became a participatory interactive exercise, which could entirely challenge the ontology of the archive itself. Archive, as we know, archive is something which has always been seen as a predominantly a male preserve, and theorists and philosophers from Derrida onwards have given a lot of academic attention to the ontology of the archive. Archive fever, it must be an essay that most of us are familiar with, So we see that, archive was also seen as an extension of the state dominance. Archive was also seen as one of the ways in which official histories got legitimated, and those of us who have visited an archive, a physical archive, would know that there is a way in which a number of regulations and restrictions operate over there. We need to know well in advance what we are looking for, and there is, our research also operates within certain well-defined regulations. Access is very limited. We cannot take things out of the archive, and certain things are beyond our access, because either it is it's a kind of material which cannot be disseminated. One could perhaps take photocopies of certain kinds of material, but not even photos are allowed of certain other kinds of material. One could only take a few notes, and sometimes even just remember things and then come out and write a report based on that. So these are the ways in which archives have been operating traditionally, and archives also played a very, very central role in the in participating in the writing of the stories of different nations, different communities. And given that a mobile archive, a digital archive, as we have seen in a number of other cases, including our own experimental project Memory Bites, it signals a clear departure from whatever restrictions and regressive models of authenticity of legitimacy that the physical archive stood for. It also ensured that there is an increased participation of women and a number of others whose stories were never told. So for instance, in if you are familiar with any kind of a digital archive, you know that, this is also plain common sense to understand that there is a kind of mobility and access which a physical archive could never have offered. Instead of, we going to the archive, this is like the archive coming to us. And there are, in fact, a number of archives, digital archives in the West, as well as, in different parts of South Asia, where the viewer, the person who's engaging with the archive can also contribute, can also add to certain things. There is a way in which we can constantly keep changing the content, the configuration, the material can be edited, taken away. So there is a certain permutability, that a malleability that the digital archive offers, which I believe is very, very significant in a process of retelling of history. So when we are looking at the digital media, when we are looking at the relation between gender and the digital world, we also realize that maybe from the mid-90s onwards, most gender-centric projects which were using the digital tool, which were using the digital media, also focused on rewriting history, also focused on creating digital archives, because it offered the possibility of having fluid histories, of having fluid identities. Because one of the problems that feminist scholarship also had traditionally, historically, with the processes of writing history, with historiography in general, was that there was a standard mode in which history writing operated. It was always difficult to, at best, one could, find a corner in that grand narrative. As Professor Ram was also pointing out in his a well-detailed talk with a lot of details about how it is still, even in 2023, how it is still difficult, get in and find a space for oneself, you're given the many, many restrictive ways in which gender operates. So we realize, history has been one such grand narrative, out of which women and a number of other marginalized communities, the ones with lesser voices or, with invisible bodies, were always kept out of. So the digital archive was one of the earliest kinds of revolutions which totally reconfigure the ontology of the relation between gender and digitality. Yeah? So we continue to see that digital archive is still in this, in some sense, in a very nascent stage, because we are still figuring out the perfect kind of models through which we can work at the intersection of history and technology, because there are also multiple factors at work over here, including the infrastructure, funding, the technical expertise, and a lot of things are there. But I would like to state that with the whatever limited experience that I have had with this possibility of working with this vast space of digitality, this vast space of archiving, which opens up a number of avenues which were not accessible, not affordable earlier, there is certainly a huge revolution waiting to happen, because digital archives, they do I mean, in terms of, not just in terms of, the participatory and the interactive potential, even in terms of the making of the archive, we find a lot of, women participation. For instance, the Memory Bytes, the app that we worked on, our technology partner was, a company called Vizara, which was an all-women tech company. Yeah. So in a very, let's say that's a very structural level too, we find that there's an increasing participation of women at various levels, at a conceptual level, as at a structural level, at your infrastructure level. Yeah. So, and this is also something which would eventually lead to the emergence of multiple institutional channels of legitimacy and knowledge. Yeah. Because the creation of a digital archive, creation of a mobile archive, which is portable, which is very fluid in nature. What it does is, challenging the authority of the physical archive in so many different ways. It's not invalidating the physical archive in any way, but it's also showing that there are alternate ways of existing. Alternate ways of existing, not just within the space of the text, alternate ways of existing, not just within the space of traditional narratives, but there are newer worlds which could be created, which is fluid, which is very, which is, as a couple of very well-known theorists on digital humanities and feminist writings would say, Catherine Hales and Anne Balsamo, I've drawn a lot from their theoretical frameworks. They conceive the digital archive as a hyperlinked, hypermediated, and automated space. A hyperlinked, hypermediated, and automated space. So what this space does is, through this hyperlinking, hypermediating, and automating, is making available a newer set of worlds, a newer set of tools, a newer set of theoretical frameworks through which history and identity could be revisited. So this, I'll wrap up very quickly with some of the brief insights that we gained through this engagement with our app, Memory Bytes. So we also presented this as a phygital exhibition, physical plus digital. Yeah, we also presented this as a phygital exhibition, and it was exhibited within our campus here at IIT Madras, also in a couple of heritage museums here in Chennai. So it was a month-long exhibition, which was visited by people of all ages, all backgrounds, all genders. Yeah, we found that unlike other models of history, unlike other narratives of history, which are restricted to still, largely restricted to an academic community, unless presented in ways which become modified versions in through movies or documentaries or such adaptations, we find that here, this archive, which has a lot of scholarly content, could interact with even school children, and with a number of women who have perhaps, never have engaged with history in an academic sense. Yeah. So this this sort of an interaction and interconnectivity, with this could go a very long way, because, this digital archive is also reflexive of this complex ontology of the experience of memory. Yeah. There is an experience of memory. There is an experience of experience itself. There's an experience of everydayness, which all could come together and reconfigure the ways in which we look at identity, the ways in which we look at the creation of history, and also the possibility of continually, rewriting history. Yeah, because that was something, you know, from the 70s onwards, when the rewriting of history, took a very deep roots in a number of feminist departments, in a number of centers of feminist scholarship. Yeah, we know that, you know, how this rewriting has played a major role in reconfiguring a number of other gender models as well. Yeah, so we do, as part of this the center's work, and also as an extension of looking at a number of digital platforms, a number of digital interactions which are emerging, particularly, you know, in the last 4 or 5 years. We've seen this unprecedented kind of growth of digital platforms. And all of this, you know, I mean, of course, you know, there are pros and cons that one could talk about in many different ways, but the central premise of this conference itself is to think about the possibilities ahead, I believe. Yeah, that is what we are gearing up towards. Yeah, and this is again a new space which has never been claimed before. And the digital space, you know, it's fluid enough. It is there is a kind of a transnational and transnational possibilities which this digital platform is invested with. And there's also a possibility to make new identities, you know, not just, you know, rewrite the existing ones, but also to create newer identities which could be accepted in ways which they were never before accepted, and which could also, you know, more importantly, provide very interactive and participatory platforms for women and many others who were outside of this entire exercise of historiography itself. Yeah, so I'm happy to continue this conversation. If any of you would like to write to us to know more about the kind of work that we do over here. So we are keen to collaborate at various levels and see, you know, how we have a memory lab here at our Center for Memory Studies, and we have been trying to develop models of cognitive models, historical models based on augmented reality and virtual reality, looking at, you know, heritage about the past, about different kinds of identities through the lens of technology. But this also becomes a space where the past can be reclaimed in such ways that, you know, it could be reconfigured for the future. Yeah, so it's also, you know, giving a model which would depart from all the traditional models available to us and offer a more interactive and participatory space ahead. Yeah, so I thank you all for your time, and I will look forward to interacting with you all in the times to come. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Marine, for that very lively, comprehensive, and a detailed presentation focusing on the conflicting tug and pull between gender and the digital archive. Dr. Marine's dissemination critically examined the aspects of the new modes of memory preservation, so indicating a departure from the traditional modes of archiving, and also the women, she has mentioned the way in which women have participated in legitimizing the history as well as the knowledge areas. So thanks indeed, it was wonderful. And to the participants out there, I'm throwing open the floor for any questions to Dr. Marine Simiraj. Anything on the chat that has come? Let me just. Okay, not so many, but we'll just wait a while and see if there are any questions, Marine, and then maybe you can just give a last word of wrapping up. Well, I guess, as Marine said, everybody's now moving towards the lunch break, and it's been a long day for them, and we at India here are just at 11 o'clock now, 11 past 8:10.
I think there's some questions, I think.
Yes, great. Can we have the question?
Do the software engineering culture will adopt nature of system in support for women and users?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not. Yes. Yeah. Thank you for this question. I'm not entirely sure if I'm equipped to give an appropriate answer to this, because this is also, something which has to do with largely with policy decisions. And we do know that, not just the software engineering culture, but there are a number of occupational and say, even everyday kind of cultures which are still gravitating towards the male preserve. Yeah. So there is certainly, a lot of change, but how much of that has seeped into the, the work culture? How much of that has seeped into this? Maybe, for the if we talk about, the women as end users, yeah, this is certainly a newer kind of a platform which offers more accessibility and interactivity compared to a number of other physical platforms. Yeah, but we do not know in terms of the work culture, whether there has been a lot of change, as much as change that we would have wanted to see, but that's also largely a policy decision. And we do know that, there is a lot of, economics at work over here. It also operates in a circuit of economy, which sometimes does not pay any attention to these finer ethical aspects of it. But to answer your question in a black and white, take a black and white stance, I would certainly say that there is a massive change which has come about in terms of acknowledging women as users, yeah, in this changing scenario. And we also see that there are a lot of women compared to the hardware, in the software part, there are a lot of women who are, say, participants in the processes of creation. Yeah, and that is something, which we can visibly see as a change as compared to, a manufacturing sector, which was very dominant for the longest time. Yeah, so I mean, we certainly can be very hopeful about things getting quite better, because this is a very new area, and it's easier to implement newer policies for very novel kind of idea. So, right, yeah. So I'm not sure, if I am equipped to respond in more appropriate terms for this.
Thank you. Dr. Marin, I have a question.
Yes, please.
If Dr. Renuka will permit.
Yes.
Dr. Marin, yours was a fascinating presentation, and an area that's actually very, very new. And you have focused on the Anglo-Indian community. And I understand from your presentation that this is actually a very new project, and there are reasons that you stated why you focus on the Anglo-Indian community. But I'm sure there are also other small communities in India whose history is actually being lost because of either the numbers belonging to the community have actually become very small, or they have moved away. And I can think of some communities, but I don't want to, because I'm not from India. So there are certain communities where their history has not been properly documented. So are there any plans for you to extend this beyond the Anglo-Indian community? That's my first question. And the second one is more of a comment. I do remember, and I think Pontry would also remember, we had a colleague some time ago who was doing her PhD on creating an app for students to study history. And unfortunately, she passed on some time ago, but it was very fascinating because she was basically in the IT space. And she said that a lot of students in schools did not want to study history because they found it very boring. So she was creating this app because students like apps, and the younger generation, they love apps. So she was creating this app where the students would actually study, to enable students to study history using an app. I do not know whether a similar problem exists in India, where the apps are also needed for students to study history. Dr. Marin, those are my two comments. And the person I was talking about, Pontry, to jog your memory, is Puan Azura.
Yes, yes, I do remember.
Right.
Right. Yes. Thank you so very much. Yeah, and the first question, I'm very glad that you asked it. So at my work on the Anglo-Indian community, that was like, I've been working on this for the last 5-6 years. Yeah, so when we started working on the app and on, the AR and the VR platforms, since we had the research material ready, yeah, so we wanted to first experiment with that, yeah, and to see, because, and also the other thing was that the Anglo-Indian community, and of course, there are a number of other communities, other voices, other narratives, which are just waiting to be digitized, yeah, that is certainly there. This, I want to believe that this is the first of the many projects, yeah, this was our first, step towards this direction. And we launched this only in September 2022. Yeah, and we found massive success in these last few months. And this is also connected to your second question. In terms of, we are also trying to scale this app up as a pedagogical tool too. Yeah, because right now, first, where we just wanted to position this as an archive where people can come and, engage with the history and the lived experience of the community. It also had embedded, videos, audios. It had, also gave animated experiences of certain, a number of instances which cannot be captured in a text-based format and all. But we also found that, like you also rightly mentioned, a number of school students, engaging very actively with this, because that is a generation which is like literally born into the lap of a number of apps. We also found that they are the dexterity with which they are navigating through different formats of it, which it was amazing. Yeah. So that has also led us to, this thought about scaling this up as a pedagogical tool. In fact, right now, we are, we've put together some projects and some collaborators together to scale this up on a subscription model in two different ways. One, these sort of apps which could be used at the school level, and another one, which could be accessed as research material. Yeah, just so that because even as we speak, accessing a number of archives, whether in India or in someplace abroad, it also entails a lot of travel. There's a kind of expenses and other logistics involved. But what if these sort of things could be accessed at your fingertip through these apps, which will also allow an interactive model of learning, an interactive model of research. Yeah, so certainly these are things that we have in the pipeline too. But I'm very glad to hear this very, very positive and engaging response from you too. Yeah, thank you. Really looking forward to.
And I have one suggestion for Dr. Marin. Once you're finished with the Indians, the Indian subcontinent, maybe you'll want to extend it to countries like Malaysia, where there are Indian populations, and myself, I think Prof. Rohini, all of us are like first generation. Our parents have come from India, from Sri Lanka and other such places, and they've got an amazing history. And I think one of the participants, I'm not sure whether he's still online, he wrote a book about his mother and her journey from India to Malaysia. I don't know, Prof. Kumar Das, are you still with us? He may have left the conversation. And he just put, the title of the book was his mother's name. But if this could be archived, it would be just amazing, because the outreach will be so great.
Yes, this actually sounds very, very exciting. I think, we should continue this conversation outside of this and see where we can take this. Yeah, this is amazing. I'm actually very, very excited to know more about this. And there is certainly a lot of potential in a number of, Southeast cultures. There's a lot of potential to rewrite and reconfigure the existing identities and histories. Yeah, but because in some ways or the other, we've been relying a lot on the post-colonial models which were available to us right after, the empires began to set down. So it's high time that, we use these newer tools to rewrite our stories and make them. And also, it's also very interesting, the identity that you are talking about yourself too. It's again a hybrid identity. Yeah, and we need, more such transnational hybrid identities to be legitimized and to be given its own voice and its own history. Yeah, there is a lived experience, there is a unique history, part and parcel of every story of migration, every transnational identity. So I'm really looking forward to having a longer conversation with you. Thank you so much.
Definitely, we can have a conversation outside of this conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All the best for your conference.
Back to you, Dr. Renuka.
Thank you, Professor Sulo, for sort of expanding the liveliness and the rigor of the conversation. I think we are running out of time, but I have one curious question for you, Dr. Marine. I was looking at the potentiality that lies in the digital archive that you have discussed today, especially with the memory brides. And I was looking at the way in which the gender asymmetry in the digital spaces could actually be socially recast by the memory bytes and your digital archive that you have sort of discussed in today's discussion. Because there is an attempt that you have made in sort of looking at a marginalized society of the Anglo-Indian that was, sort of misrepresented through popular culture and others. Is there a way in which that can be recast through the digital archiving? And also, as Professor Sulu had pointed out, there are some lost communities. Is there a way that we could revive? And there is an essential way in which we should look at the social recasting. So that my interest lies in that. Is there a possibility of that?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I would just refer to this concept called the theory of the total archive. Yeah, this was first presented by Catherine Hales, who's one of the leading theorists in digital humanities and gender. Yeah, she works at the intersection of both. Yeah, so the theory of the total archive is about bringing in everything together. Yeah, so in some sense, when we begin to think about the this re-ontologized space which is available to us, yeah, and where we look at the gender and digital together, rather than perhaps just making this about certain kinds of gender, certain aspects of a community, maybe this theory of the total archive would be applicable, because we wouldn't, there never was a need to talk about bringing in people from the margin to the center if everything was always totally archived. Yeah, and one of the possibilities of the digital space is that we can move away from the center. There need not be a center anymore. Yeah, because we've been trying to bring communities and voices from the margins to the center, but the space of the digital itself, it completely decentralizes everything. Look at the way in which the Zoom room itself is the logistics of the Zoom room. We can never figure out who is at the center. But if we have this conference in a physical space, we would always know who is on the other side of the table, who is placed where. Yeah. But in a digital conference, in a digital classroom, it totally decentralizes everything. Even if I want to be at the center, yeah, I can't make sure that I will be at the center all. And which is the center here that we are talking about? There is, the identities, the positions, everything is constantly in a flux. Yeah. So that this theory of this total archive and the possibility of this compulsive decentralization, yeah, that is perhaps the way to go in terms of recasting gendered identities too. Thank you so very much for this very well thought out question, Professor Rajaratnam.
Thank you. So I think, Professor Sulu, can we wrap up this session? And thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to be part of this global conference. So from me, I'm signing off, and over to you, Professor Sulu.
Thank you so very much.
Okay, this session that I'm, sorry. Okay, everything's on. This session that I'm supposed to be concluding, I cannot even stay more than 1 minute because it's almost coming up to 2 o'clock. I think all the Malaysians are way past their lunchtime, except for those who are fasting. And for the other participants, all I just want to say is that when we just started with an idea. And I'm just amazed at how many excellent presentations and chairs and questions have actually evolved in this, in putting together this conference. And I myself, on a personal level, have learned a lot. And also, I would like to thank all the presenters, all the chairs who've come in and helped me to organize the session, and also to the Center for Women Leadership for initiating this conference. We always try to do something during the just after the International Women's Day, which falls in the early part of March, and we always get our act together by the end of March and do something. Prof. Rohini, do you want to say some concluding words? You still with us? I'm not sure who is here and who's left. This is the exact point that you were making, Prof. Mirin, who you don't know who is there and who is not. Okay, but otherwise, I would just want to conclude by saying thank you and for a wonderful session, which was thoroughly, I can't believe I've just sat here for 3 hours and listened to all the presentations. Thank you very much. And we will keep this conversation going, and we will try to publish these conference proceedings. I'll be reaching out to the presenters again to give me your presentations in a Word document so that I can put it together and get it published as a conference proceeding, because I think there's a lot of valuable material here that I don't want to waste by just, at the end of the conference, by just saying thank you. So thank you very much and have a wonderful day ahead.
Thank you, and for this wonderfully put together conference.
Thank you.